What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.
All right, Diesel heads, it's episode 14 of the Chronicles of Diesel, the only show that explores everything Vin Diesel, his films, his games, his discography, everything Vin Diesel. My name is Ethan. With me on this fine May morning is Devin.
You need two things to live in this business: your balls and your word. Talking about podcasting.
I mean, right? We got to be on time. May. That's when this episode is going up. That is a quote from one of our big ticket movies for today's episode titled Babylon AD. We will also be talking about his involvement in the Fast and Furious films at this point, including Tokyo Drift, as well as a Hitman movie from this era as well. Under the Chronicles of Diesel, we go through chronologically everything Vin Diesel has ever done. We've gone through a year's worth, 12 episodes of his early stuff.
Happy 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is episode 14, so...
Happy 1 year, though.
Sure. We'll say that every time. We've introduced the Fast and the Furious. We've introduced Riddick. We've introduced Triple X. His biggest roles, we've introduced them all. And now this year, we're basically going through and knocking them out. Really seeing the meat and bones. So I'm excited. We did a very interesting film that's very un-Vin Diesel-like, so to speak, last episode. Now we're jumping back into some Vin Diesel-ass shit. For this episode.
For sure.
Exactly. So as always, before we jump back in time to talk about our films or games or whatever, let's jump back in time just about a month and see what the news of Vin Diesel has been like on the Vin Diesel News Network.
All right, folks. Welcome to VNN. I'm your news anchor / reporter / guy who just looks at his Instagram for the most part. We got some big news. A lot of big news this month. Last episode, if you listened to it, we didn't have too much to go with. He actually had his low, since I've been tracking it, he had the low amount of posts since I, like I said, started tracking it. And this month, I think, is probably the most I've seen him post. 10 posts on Instagram this month. And technically, he has a day to maybe put 11 in there. You know what I mean?
We are recording on.
I was going to say we're on the 29th. And most of the posts though are with news of Fast 9, a new date. I believe it's
right.
June 25th.
That's right. The marketing's coming back around, so yeah.
June 25th. So he's been posting stuff about that, and he's also been posting stuff about Fast 10 too. And
really?
My biggest breaking news yet. This is only from VNN.
Biggest breaking news yet.
Yes.
The singles are lesser than this.
Well, it could be related, Ethan. You see, he's been talking about albums, possibly new music, right, for a while now. But we haven't heard anything since his last single in December or whenever it came out. In one of his posts, it's him in like some nice ass gazebo. And over the loudspeakers in the gazebo, it's playing a song. And I'm like, listen to it. It's in Spanish. It's in Spanish. I'm listening to it, and I'm like, okay, it sounds like a Spanish pop song. Okay. And then it occurs to me, Vin Diesel is singing in Spanish. And I'm like, let's go. Let's go. And while this is all happening, he's like, oh, I'm here with the director for Fast 10 to talk over a story. And I'm like... What a life, dude! This guy gets to play his music at this nice ass gazebo while he's hanging out with his with his director, and they're gonna talk shop.
Oh my god!
So he dropped two things there. He drops, I'm working on Fast 10 script basically right now, and I'm not even gonna acknowledge it, but you hear my voice in there. It's so dope, so dope. It's like he's leaking it himself without actually even acknowledging it. That's the shit right there. So he's teasing a lot of stuff right now. We're getting a lot of Vin projects being announced. But yeah, F9 had 2 trailers and a final trailer. Go ahead.
before you jump into those movies, since we were just talking about the songs, I just opened up Spotify, and he is an actor that is branching out with music. It was shocking when he released "Feel Like I Do" back whenever that was. Currently, at least this is what the Spotify app tells me on desktop. Total plays on that are 4.7 million.
That's insane.
It's big. However, I feel like the shock and awe of, wow, this guy is doing music has dropped because Days Are Gone, not Days Gone, the
video
free
game
on PlayStation Plus right now. Days Are Gone is only at 600,000. So I feel like a lot less people are like coming back for his second song. It's like, all right, I guess he is doing that now. Whatever. Maybe they said I didn't like the first one or whatever.
We didn't advertise as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, good job there, intern.
Thanks. I would like to get paid one of these days.
We don't do that here. Free labor. It's for the experience. But yeah, he dropped this like little video where he's like, "Hey, I'm doing press right now. It's kind of weird doing it virtually, but I'm super proud of everyone who worked on Fast 9. There'll be a trailer on the 14th of April. We got that. It was really good. If you haven't watched it, I actually would highly recommend watching it. It looks so freaking amazing. And
they got magnets.
Yeah, magnet car, rocket car. They have the train thing from Speed Racer, the movie cartoon.
Yeah.
It's everything in that, it seems.
There's even a scene where it's Tyrese and Ludacris, I believe, and it looks like maybe they're not going to space, but they're going into some low orbit shit.
They break in the first barrier to going to space, at least. But yeah, then there was another. He dropped like multiple trailers basically, and then there was a final trailer where it was him driving on this like open road somewhere, and he comes out of the car and he's like, basically he explains how it's been a difficult year, but there's one thing that like always makes us come together, and it's been doing it for 100 years, and that's the movies. And it was actually kind of cool. Like it kind of got me like hyped up a little bit. I'm like, yeah, fucking movies, man. I miss that shit. And like, he's like, yeah, and guess what? Fast 9, June 25th. I'm like, you know what, Vin? Yeah, fuck yeah. We're all gonna be in theaters. We're all be clapping. We're all be like, yeah, fuck COVID. And he was saying how like it's a place to escape and whatnot. I'm like, you know what? Thank you, Vin. Thank you. You're a real one, man. You're a real one. But yeah, he talked about that. Then he did an Earth Day post, which I thought was like, I don't think he meant it on purpose, but it was like kind of like a humble brag at the same time, because he's like, Happy Earth Day, I love our planet, all the people on it, blah, blah, blah. And then he like pans up, he pans his camera, and he's on like this cliffside with this like, looks like a nice ass table, like nice ass chairs. And then the director again of Fast 10's there, he's like, we're celebrating Earth Day but with this great view, and we're going to talk shop about F10. And I'm like, you're having this nice ass lunch on this cliff that no one probably has access to, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm also talking about Fast 10.
Did he say F10?
Yeah.
F10.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's either maybe that's a working title for now, the safest title.
Well, because obviously this one's titled F9.
Yeah.
The Fast Saga or whatever. F9.
FX.
It's interesting if they just could be. Or fasten your seatbelt.
That's such a stretch of one. Fast 10 years seatbelt.
Honestly, I feel like if it's the last one, like this saga or whatever, because obviously it makes a lot of money.
He did say that it's post the
going.
Final chapter, so I think at least he's done.
Right.
He's also getting older at this point too, I think. Remember, we've talked about it in previous episodes where he's always said that he wanted to direct movies, not actually be in them at one point, right? So like,
yeah.
Maybe he's getting old enough. He's like, I'm just gonna start directing shit.
Anyway, my point though is that if this is the last one of his saga and his friend's saga and that crew's saga, just call it the Fast and the Furious 10.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool. You know what I mean?
The Last and Furious,
the Last of the Furious,
the Last of Us Furious.
Yeah,
10.
Zombie Cars.
Zombie
Cars were in 8
that.
though.
Oh, I can't wait for that movie again. Freaking
fucked
Zombie
that
Cars
up.
was that was ridiculous.
We will be watching that movie for episode
like 21 or something, I'm sure.
May 2022.
What?
Yep.
It's a whole year from now.
Yeah.
God damn. Okay, never mind.
1 year from today, we will be watching the Fate.
I'll forget about this episode and my thought of that until May. But
I think you'll remember.
But yeah, overall, that's all his posts. He did a birthday post for Jordana Brewster as well.
Who's returning?
Yes.
The Fast 9,
Yes.
F9.
As well. And she actually wrote a comment. She's like, love you too. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. But yeah, he did all these posts on there. Looks great. I'm hyped. He's getting me hyped for freaking Fast 9. And with all the trailers and whatnot. There's one part where like he like jumps out of the car and does like a barrel roll and some shit. There's another one where like they have like it shoots a I don't even know what to call it. It's like in Jurassic Park they have the wire on the rope on the tree. Sorry, the rope on the tree. It's like a winch basically to help pull the car. He does that to the cliff, and they like Tarzan their way to the other island. Like it's like in the middle of nowhere, but it just looks absolutely
That's
insane.
right.
I hope from front to back they just go full throttle. Like they got to really just keep up in the ante. So I'm excited.
Remember in Hobbs and Shaw, they overcome the villain by teamwork, but their teamwork is simply letting each other get beaten up. That's the teamwork.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just because there's a scene where like they use the wench thing too, and they jump off a cliff or something like that.
Oh, and then
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Also, if you don't know, which I thought was still bizarre, is that they're like, yeah, John Cena's Dominic Toretto's brother that he just never mentioned. I'm like, whatever, man. We're here for the drama, the soap opera drama with
the guy that's all about
cars.
family, neglected to mention his own. Oh no!
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. By the way, his follower count, we broke 69 million last month. We're now at 69.4 million. We're on our way.
Okay.
We're on our way to 100 mil.
Okay.
Fast
Do
9, I'm
you
expecting a
think-
big boost.
I think I've asked you this question already in a different form, but when do you think we'll hit 100 million, and will it be while we're still doing this show?
I think it will be while we're doing this show. I believe that, but it might be later, much later. It's just I didn't start tracking it until 6 months ago, so I don't really have much data to build off of. I'm sure there's a site that would like tell me over time, but that's no fun. So I'm just gonna pretend I don't know, and I'm hoping to see some data from F9. I think F9 we'll see how big of a boost he gets, because then we can kind of predict like maybe based off when his movies are coming out how big of a boost he can get. So but
sounds good to me.
I think at least a year, but I don't see that happening. I'm saying it's
I
gonna
see.
be at least a year before he even gets close to 100 million, in my opinion, unless he gets like a 10 million bump from Fast 9.
Actually, that is a good point. I wonder if
like if he only gets like a 1 million bump, I'm gonna be like, okay, it has nothing to do with movies coming out, and this is
you haven't been tracking while he's had a movie release, we don't know if he gets
tracking. So
okay, interesting.
But
well, is that all of the current Vin Diesel stuff?
And then there's a bunch of I looked up like articles, and it's all just about Fast 9 and whatnot, which I'm not going to go into. But if you're interested, you know where to find that. Vin Diesel.
What's the date on that film again?
June 25th, I believe. Let me just double check that.
So next episode will be the last episode we have before
June 25th,
a new Vin Diesel movie,
and we're going to see that day one.
Hell yeah!
Director Justin
we
Lin.
are.
So he's also doing F10, by the way. I hope it's like frickin' Endgame or something. Like it ends on like a cliffhanger, and like that's how we get into Fast 10, or Infinity War rather, into Endgame.
It looks like half of them die.
Oh, that'd be dope, actually.
Yeah.
Or Dom
if it's supposed to be
dies.
the last of the Sokka,
Or Dom dies.
they gotta have the balls to kill one of them off.
Do you think Dom will die in the last F10?
He'll sacrifice himself to save his family. Totally how they'll do it. Totally how
You don't think
they'll
he'll just
do it.
drive off in the sunset again? Like in half of the movies he does?
Probably, but like if he were to die, that's how he would
they're gonna
die.
pull a Armageddon, the movie Armageddon. He's gonna go to space and stop an asteroid by blowing himself up.
He's gonna
as a nuke.
kamikaze the asteroid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it'll be aliens
All
or
right.
some shit. I don't fucking know.
Well, let's jump back in time to the mid to late 2000s.
2008, baby.
I know, 2006, 7, and 8, because we have 3 films to talk about today.
What an era.
To different degrees. This is after Vin Diesel has really been making a name for himself. He starred in unexpectedly big-ish action hits. He's transformed his characters from supporting actors to then the lead character in sequels. And he's also been he's been casted or hired rather for some what would be standard films that you might have, a Disney comedy or a war hero action movie like A Man Apart. He's gone through all these now. So he's in his point of his career where he is being offered roles, he is going after roles and getting them, and he's also being able to say no to things and actually not end his career that way. You know what I mean? He can say no to something
from
and
the
still
bottom,
be Vin Diesel.
and now he's here.
Well, now he was there because that was 14 years ago. But first project is Tokyo Drift, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. So Vin Diesel, number one, as well as Michelle Rodriguez, they were both not in Too Fast, Too Furious. Vin Diesel was offered $25 million to return in Too Fast, Too Furious, but he declined. He didn't like the way that the script worked out. He actually didn't really like the first movie script, but he was able and allowed to change it, to doctor it, to give his character and his crew some more like quote-unquote street cred. But for this film, he just declined. And he went on to say, I had started to think that the first Fast and Furious as a classic, like a rebel without a cause, if we sequelized it in the way studios were doing at the time, just slapping a story together, it'd ruin the chance of that first one becoming a classic. So he didn't want to be a part of it because he was afraid of that first movie.
Bouncing off of Rebel Without a Cause, that's, James Dean, you know what I mean? Like, he's always... Wasn't it like in the first episode we did?
Yeah.
He is obsessed with James Dean.
Yeah.
Like he built this, that's like half of his inspiration. Yeah. And it's just amazing every time. No matter how many years we go further and further, he just keeps going back to him. And I respect that you're like, he's still to him an inspiration is James Dean.
And he's mentioned in the past couple of years that in retrospect he wished he'd fought harder to make that film better, and then he would have been a part of it. But he skipped Too Fast, Too Furious.
Probably for the better.
And, that movie's terrible.
It's forgettable.
Tokyo Drift's coming around, and he was not a part of the film at all. Although, according to series writer Chris Morgan, Dom was the lead for a hot second. And he goes on to quote, I think originally I came in and pitched. Essentially it was Tokyo Drift, but it was with Vin. And his character kind of had to go out and learn drifting. And there was a murder he had to solve. And they said, nah, can't do that. We have to do high school. So Universal basically was like, no, we want to do something else. We want to make this a universe, so to speak. But this film was troubled throughout production. During the end of production on Tokyo Drift, Universal approached Vin Diesel to do a small cameo for the ending of the film and be in a potential fourth Fast and Furious movie. Vin Diesel, who had, like I said, multiple big acting roles since that first movie, negotiated instead. Basically, he opted to not get paid for his cameo. And in return, because again, he was offered $25 million for Too Fast, Too Furious, and he's had movies
unpaid
since.
Though. Okay, where's this going?
He's had big roles since that have been worth lots of money. In return, he got the theatrical rights to the Riddick franchise for his One Race production company.
Worth it.
Also,
he won that trade.
Vin became a permanent producer of the Fast and Furious movies.
No, I'm all for getting money to the little man, even though he's a millionaire probably at this point. But generally speaking, compared to these billion-dollar production companies, how did he do that?
What I love about it, and like you said, he is not a starving artist or an artist trying to have ownership of their art, but he owns one of his movies. At this point, he owned two because Chronicles of Riddick had been out, but he owns something that he has been a part of, something big. You know what I mean? As an art and as an actor or an artist, as he would like to call himself. What did he call him? What was the weird term that he used? No. He's not an auteur. It was thespian, I think. Yeah. Which sounds like he's saying lesbian, thespian. As a thespian like him, probably felt really great to be like, hey, I own this. I have the power to do whatever I want with this and do something artistic with it. So that was obviously very cool.
I just want to know how he, because just going into that, yeah, he's starting to make a name for himself, but he doesn't have that much leverage either. They could have easily been like, nah, we're good.
So here's the thing. Universal, by the end of the day, wants to make as much money off a movie as possible and spend the least making it. They obviously really liked the fact that Vin Diesel's like, you don't have to pay me for this cameo. They liked that, number one. Number two, according to the people that talked about this exchange, maybe not necessarily Universal as a public stating, like, record on the record, but maybe people within Universal said they had thrown the Riddick franchise into their trash pile because the Chronicles of Riddick did not make a lot of money, as nearly as much as they had wanted, or based off how much they spent on it. That was a movie they were like, okay, this is done. We're not going to bring this back at all. So it was easier to be like, you know what I mean? You could take this. It's not like as if Tom Cruise went now and said, I'd like to own Mission Impossible. They'd be like, hell no, we're going to keep making them. But if it was after that second awful movie, maybe they'd be like, sure. You know what I mean?
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
But it's great, though. It's still a ballsy move, and it's fantastic. Although, actually, the third Riddick movie wouldn't come out until 2013. So, like, they started working on it and then benched it. Universal actually would end up, I guess, helping them finance the movie that they then sold to Vin Diesel, which is interesting. We did not see the entirety of Tokyo Drift for this episode. We had to watch a lot of stuff for last month's Sonic Movie Show stuff, as well as obviously watch a movie for this episode. So we didn't actually
and we both
watch
work.
the entirety. And we both have jobs and we both have other things to do. Yada yada. Well, whatever. Because we knew at the end of the day, Vin Diesel is only going to be in the after credit scene or whenever it took place at the end of the film. Maybe it was right before credits. I think it led into
like
the
a
credits.
mid post credit scene.
Something like that. Definitely led. It felt like it led into credits with the way the music swelled at the end. We just watched the ending, that part there with Vin Diesel in it, just to kind of put a cap on this story and be like, it's cool. How cool was that moment for us watching the film when we watched it back then? I don't remember if we knew or not that he was in it at the end, or I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. I don't remember like being aware of that. I just remember we were bummed that Vin Diesel wasn't in. After watching the first one, we were like, okay, we're gonna watch all of these, and then we got to like once we saw it, like he wasn't in the next two. We were kind of bummed. So maybe we did see like, oh, he's in the third, but it's a cameo, but we didn't know when that was gonna be. Maybe
like a phone call or something, right?
Avengers Initiative, yeah.
And we were like upset because main character in Tokyo Drift sucked, like as a character, and just like the performance.
And
of
once
that
again,
character.
Vin Diesel stole the show in the first movie.
Exactly.
So it's like, why not bring that person back?
Yeah, but he shows up at the very end in a small cameo. Our I think his name was Sean, the main character. After the story is done, they said, "Hey, you got a challenger for the race." He pulls up, and we see from the back, it's famous Don's famous fucking Charger.
I was gonna say before that though, he was like, "Whatever, man." He's like, "Oh, but he knew what's his name?
Knew Han.
Knew Han." He's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Who's dead but
rolls
alive,
up.
but dead but alive.
Well, you remember Tokyo Drift takes place after Furious 7.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, it was funny you mention this because I was just lurking on the Fast and Furious subreddit just to see people's reactions to the movie, the new trailers and stuff. And someone's like, "It's kind of funny to think that movie was supposed to take place in 2014."
Yeah, considering the phones and stuff that they used. Yeah. One of those things that does not actually make any sense at all.
But whatever.
Whatever. It is cool in retrospect that they were like, oh yeah, Han's gonna go to Tokyo with Gal Gadot or with I forgot what her name was. We'll find out next month for Fast and Furious because she's in that movie. Whatever her character's name was. Oh, they're gonna go. Oh, it's not this movie. Fast 6, Furious 6 comes around. Oh, he's going to go after this? No. Then it's Furious 7. You know what I mean? It felt cool of like, damn, when does this take place? You know what I mean? Because like,
how funny it would have been if they just never did that arc. Like the entire time Han's is always good. Like his entire time.
I mean, who knows? That might be what F9 tells us.
Fast 10 comes around. They're like, oh, now we're in 2014. The whole time.
Yeah.
He's like, I came from a time machine.
Tokyo Drift came out in 2006.
Damn.
But I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, Dom is saying like, oh yeah, and Han or like Sean says to Han, I didn't know Sean says to Dom about Han, I didn't know he liked American Muscle. And Dom says he did when he was rolling with me. And I was like, oh,
hell yeah.
Because Han wasn't in that first movie. What happened? It is honestly to God cool, like end credits, right before credits, end of a movie, like hype scene. You know what I mean? It serves the purpose as an after credit scene, right? It is the Avengers Initiative type of shit. Because it's cool because it's like it adds mystery. It adds, like lore building to a sense. And it's like, hey, we have this character who has a history with one of our other characters in this that was only in this movie. And oh my God, he's going to be back. And it's so cool.
Fast and Furious is international.
Now, here's my question for you, Devin.
And
the audience, although the audience doesn't get a vote on this, unless you want to wait to do this until after
we can pause
we air this.
5 seconds and let you can speak out loud, audience, and then we'll hear you and we'll take what we say to heart.
That's what we'll do. At the end of every movie, we rank them, movie ranking list and the Vin Diesel performance ranking list. Do we want to do that for this scene?
It's tough because technically we did that for Awakenings, and he was literally in it for 1 millisecond.
Right.
And we ranked it.
Now, but the argument is that was the first ever thing we did, and we've had a lot of things since. So
we could break our own rules.
We can break the rules.
Can we rank it as just a scene?
Here's my second question, though. Assuming we don't do it as a scene and we do Tokyo Drift, we did not watch it for this episode. We watched it before in the past, a couple years ago, but we didn't see the movie recently. Should we still rank it? Because I would probably put it, if just from what I remember, probably below the pacifier and above the video game for the movie ranking list. But I don't feel like that's fair because from what I remember, hype parts in the movie. So
I remember like the drift scene where they go up the turn in the parking lot, the parking garage there, and I'm like, that was cool. But then after that, all I remember is his bad accent and him being 35 and not 19.
Right.
Besides that, in the Dom scene,
it's like his.
I don't really remember. Like you mentioned a murder mystery. Was that in it?
I don't remember.
I remember Han dies. I remember that now.
Yeah. Okay. So then here is.
But I don't think it's. I don't remember much of it at all. But to be fair, if you told me what Fast and Furious, the fourth one's plot was about, I couldn't tell you right now.
The fourth one was when we got upset because Paul Walker, who's supposed to be an FBI agent, continues to go back and forth and be like, nah, not law enforcement. I'm not going to betray you. I guess I am now. And we were upset because this is like the third time this motherfucker did that. But he had the whole second movie was him earning their trust back again. Here is my solution to this problem. We're going to watch Fast and Furious for next month. That is just the movie we're watching, as well as the prequel short film that Vin Diesel, I think, directed or maybe just produced called Los Bandoleros. We're going to be watching those. How about we do this? Watch Too Fast, Too Furious, Tokyo Drift, some point this month leading into June.
And
then we can then just put Tokyo Drift in there.
I don't know if I
think that's what we'll do. That's what I'm going to do. I think we will table Tokyo Drift for next month.
Okay, I don't know.
When we go talk about Fast 4.
We have to do all this other stuff for this show. I don't know if I want to just put a movie in. I didn't even like the movie. I remember not that one thing is I'm like, everyone's like, this is the best Fast and Furious. Okay. Like, if this is the best, this is going to be
It's a cult classic. That's the thing is like, because everyone loved Han and it had Han and blah, blah, blah. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that for next month. I think that's a good plan. Now, let's move on. I mean, we could technically rank his Vin Diesel performance, but like, whatever. Let's table that for next month. Now, let's also talk about another movie that he was involved with in this era. Tokyo Drift came out in 2006. In 2007, released the video game adaptation, or the film adaptation of the video game series Hitman by Eidos Interactive. In a little under a decade, they'd be bought by Square Enix. Hitman had 3 games out at the time. It was a bit of a series, and they were making a movie about it. It's weird because Vin Diesel's name is attached to this if you try to look this stuff up, but he's not actually in the movie, and he says he's an executive producer. Essentially, at one point or another, Vin Diesel was attached to the movie to play the lead. However, it is unclear whether or not he left the project or it was the production's decision to make him leave. It wasn't clear if he decided he was going to leave or if the production was like, you need to go. But regardless, he ended up with no involvement, yet still has an executive producer credit in the film. He left that to then do the next movie we're going to be talking about. So we did not watch Hitman for this either because we knew all he was an executive producer, because we watch video game movies for our main podcast, the Sonic Movie Show. At some point in the month of May, one of these Sundays, well, you'll have an episode about our impressions of the Hitman movie. And we were not going to rank that because he's not really involved with it. It's an interesting story, though, because at one point or another, he was going to be the bald guy with the two silver baller pistols, and now he's not. Right, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinions on?
Yeah,
this whole
I
thing?
mean, unless the Hitman movie is groundbreaking to us, then maybe we'll rank it in the Vin rankings. Like we just have even though he didn't do anything with it, but maybe he just had the magic touch. You know, he had the spice to make it amazing. But I have a feeling it's not going to be a groundbreaking movie. If it was, I feel like we would have heard about it by now. Like that, like, oh, you haven't seen the 2007 Hitman film? Oh,
right.
Like,
right.
Wow. Now that's a video game movie. Like I've never.
People barely even remember when they tried to reboot the Hitman movie like a couple of years ago.
I thought, to be
let
honest
alone
with you,
this one.
I thought the one that happened a couple of years ago was the 2007 one because I don't know. I never paid attention to the Hitman movies. I don't even know. I know about the game, and I remember that. I'm like, I know that has come out, and there's like DLC that comes out, and there's a new one that has a cool
like,
logo.
They're fun
but
games.
Like, yeah,
It's hilarious too because those first three Hitman games aren't all that great. I didn't really care for them. The fourth one, Hitman Blood Money, which released after this movie came out, released after the production on the movie started. Hitman Blood Money is kind of where Hitman as a franchise really begins. Where like these open sandbox levels of like, you have a target to kill, figure out how in this large environment, in this, giant dinner party, in this movie theater, there's people going around on set paths, there's always things to interact with. What do you do? That's where it begins. But like for this movie, which we will watch for this month of May, that hasn't been established yet. So I'm interested to see like,
will it have comedy too, because when I know Hitman 2, there's a little bit of comedy in there. That,
right, throwing a rubber chicken at someone and then knocking them out. Yeah, it's always goofiness in that sense.
Yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Now, you mentioned the magic touch for the Hitman movie. Potentially, Vin Diesel might just have it. Well, according to the director of our next movie, this man does not have the magic touch. Our main topic of the show today is the 2008 film Babylon AD.
Which, when I first heard it, I was thinking of a different movie. I was thinking of there's like this movie with, I want to say it's like an ancient Rome or something, and I think it's called
Really?
Babylon.
Okay.
Which is like a remake of an old like 1940s, 50s movie that was like considered an epic at the time. Maybe I'm misremembering the title, but I that's where my brain was going when we were like, okay, Babylon. And it wasn't until like you sent me a picture of you watching, I'm like, oh. I thought he was gonna be a gladiator or some shit. And like, nope.
My brain jumped to like Olympus Has Fallen or some shit instead, which I guess is closer than yours. But released in 2008.
Good year.
Budget of $70 million. Guess what the box office is?
180.
$72 million. Directed by Matthew Kassovitz and produced by Ian Goldman. Both of them are French directors and producers. Lots of foreign films on their filmographies, so to speak.
A little bit about this film.
Yep. This film is based off a 1999 French book titled Babylon Babies.
Babylon Babies.
Yeah, it's based off that 1999 book. In 2006, Vin Diesel dropped the role of Hitman to take this film. However, this casting was decided by 20th Century Fox and not by Matthew Kassovitz, the director.
That's already beef ready to be brewing. I don't even care what side you're on this. That's already beef. As soon as like a production company probably tells you, no, sorry, this person.
Your lead is someone else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because he was hardlining after this one French actor. 20th Century Fox was like, no. In fact, Kassovitz Kassovitz, it's spelled Kassovitz, Kassovitz, had such a hard time with Vin Diesel and 20th Century Fox that upwards of 70 minutes of the film had been cut. Now, 20th Century Fox says no, it was something like 15 minutes. But he says up to 70 minutes of this film was cut.
Give us what's his last name again?
The Kassovitz.
The Kassovitz cut. Give us the Kassovitz
Yeah.
cut. Show me all 70 minutes that you cut. Well, there is that uncut version that we didn't get, but that was only like 20 minutes.
We didn't want to buy it.
That was only 20
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot. It's very obvious that a lot of this film was cut when we start to get to the third act. We'll talk about our opinions there. But yeah, up to upwards of 70 minutes was cut, and not a single scene was done by Kassovitz without 20th Century Fox's involvements, their meddling, their guiding hand.
Oh man,
they wanted the film
the auteur
this certain way. Yep.
Le auteur.
So much of the film had been cut that Vin Diesel was shocked. Filming of Fast and Furious, the fourth movie, which started in 2007, the filming of that movie, production of that movie, had ended, and when he returned to look at the cut of this film, he joked, "Am I even in this movie anymore?" Because that's how much of it was cut. Production of this film was so troubled that they went way over budget and ended up having to be bailed out by their insurance company. 20th Century Fox was displeased, and the film ended up with almost no marketing. The film would end up at number 2, though, for the entire year, highest box office, behind the 2008 film Tropic Thunder, which we talked privately about recently. So that's when I saw that, I'm like, oh, yeah, interesting.
Small world.
Yeah, and Kassovitz, you want a Kassovitz cut? Kassovitz would release a documentary about his frustrations in the 2011 documentary titled "Fucking Kassovitz."
Do we have to? I feel like we have to add that in there at some point.
I kind of want to watch
it's
that.
It's like a bonus. That should be a bonus Vin Diesel Chronicles of Diesel episode.
I'd be interested.
The Chronicles
where
Kassovitz.
You can find it. That's the thing. Looking at his filmography, it's a lot of French names, and I don't remember them.
Man, I can't really. They can't. I can't believe that 21st Century Fox screwed over a French man. 20th Century Fox screwed over a French director who wants it to be an auteur. Literally, the name is French, and you're doing that to him like that.
Yeah.
And he made this beef between him and Vin, which might not have been happened if
Well, I got one last line here in what I wrote down.
Uh-oh.
Kassovitz has gone on to call the movie a bad episode of 24. And he calls Vin Diesel a completely idiot actor. This man did not like Vin Diesel. So unfortunately, Kassovitz, you're on the shit list.
You're on the shit. Oh, you're on the shit list. Well,
you're an enemy of us.
Well, as I'm saying, maybe sometimes a good podcast brings on someone who is the opposite point of view. Maybe we have to invite Kassovitz to come on here and tell us about the 70-minute after watching this documentary. Of course, I'm curious. I have questions. I don't know
if the documentary is 70 minutes, but
and then we bring Vin on. Then we bring Vin on, and we'll be like, "What do you have to say?" And then we don't tell him that we invite him to the same episode.
Oh my God! They both walk into the same room.
Wait, what are you doing here? And he speaks French.
Honestly, do you think Vin Diesel would even be able to recognize him though?
Maybe.
Yeah, it might be that kind of embarrassing thing. This man ruined my entire career, and he does not even recognize my face. Type of angry French.
I don't even know who you are, Thanos
villain. Exactly. All right, let's talk about the movie itself. Like I said, only made $2 million in the box office. I guess we'll begin our recap. Hey, you know what? That's perfect. Perfect way to look at it. Although the money did not go to Kassovitz. It just went back to 20th Century.
He said he got to go to the insurance company, so it's probably not. His insurance went up.
Yeah.
Long term.
Yeah. I believe the budget beforehand was 60. And it went up to 70 because they went way over.
Originally, we did not have submarine. Exactly. 21st Century Fox wanted submarine. They got real submarine.
We did not even have third act. I just made it up.
Literally, that was shot in one day.
It really did feel like it. All right, let's talk about this film. We open with a zoom in on Earth from space as Vin Diesel gives us yet another anti-hero monologue about how being detached allows him to survive.
Hell yeah. I was already hyped. I'm like, okay, Vin. Classic Vin. Let's
Here
do
we go
it.
again.
Here we go.
This is
look,
fucking
we've
classic Vin.
been on the roller coaster before. But maybe you added a different loop in there. I don't know.
Yeah, threw something
It's like
in
Sky
the mix this
Mountain.
time.
It's in the dark sometimes. You don't know where you're going.
Exactly. We see an explosion in front of him from a missile, and Vin declares what we just saw as the day he died. It's the classic story structure where you show essentially the ending, so to speak, and then be like, how did I get here? The fucking Sonic movie did that, remember?
Yeah.
Opened with that.
Save the planet.
We cut to Vin. Oh, yeah, that's right. And I'm like, trying to think, like, what was the context of that? Because obviously the movie's just starting, so I didn't know what it was about. I'm like, is this supposed to be like a climate change thing, or
there's elements of it, and I'm like, are you trying to do commentary on climate change or not?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. But again, this is based off a novel from 1999. This is before An Inconvenient Truth, and before maybe, I mean, obviously we always
Al Gore
knew,
was there. Al Gore knew.
He invented the internet. We cut to Vin Diesel walking in the rain through some sort of outpost while corny hip-hop plays. He attacks a dude and says the man sold him a gun that didn't work. This, I really like to juxtapose this scene with like the rest of the movie, because again, I wrote in that first paragraph about in this recap an anti-hero monologue he gives, because that's how this movie sets him up to be. And I'm like, here we go again. This is another Riddick. Whatever. But he very quickly differentiates himself from that and is actually like a decent fucking person. You know what I mean? There's one scene in particular I want to talk about when we get there. But this scene right here with the music playing and he's walking, he's like, you sold me a gun that didn't work. I want my $20 back or whatever. Of course, obviously, considering the situation around him, the $20 might be a lot of money.
What's funny is when we got like the opening scene here, I actually dug the atmosphere and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, this is a little cheesy, but I like it. I like me some cheese. And then I was like, okay, all these army men here, but they don't look army. They look like I'm like, oh, is this gonna be like a revolution in like Eastern Europe somewhere? I'm like, is this supposed to be in like, 1991 or something? But I'm like, but they're talking about climate change, so I'm like, maybe not. I'm like, is this gonna be? I'm like,
yeah.
The leftist in me, I was like, oh, is this going to be a socialist revolution, a communist revolution? Oh, no, it's just
now
like,
they're just selling guns.
They're just selling guns.
That's what they were. Whenever they were pointing at their rifle, it wasn't like a show of, hey, don't fuck with me. It's like, do you want to buy this?
Which I like more, because it's kind of goofy to think about just a dude like, when all you're, like, imagine like you're in this group, and there's a dude who's just constantly like wasting bullets, shooting in there, being like, yeah, and I'm like, bro, like, we're not even fighting anybody right now, like, chill, like, we don't need to be hype, we're not about to go fight someone. So
exactly,
but it's funny, guys, like, buy gun.
So I keep
Brad.
For all of these movies, I keep closed captioning on, because I want to make sure I know how to spell certain names, like Toorop, Toorop, and etc., and really know what people are saying verbatim. Whenever anyone speaks Russian, which is a lot in the beginning of this movie, it's not subtitled even in there. It just says speaking in Russian. And it's like, interesting. Obviously, the default way of watching a movie, as far as just the regular way, accessibility be damned, whatever, is closed captioning is off by default, obviously, when you're watching a movie, even in theaters, etc. And they chose not to subtitle those parts, so they deemed it not important. It's just chatter, so to speak, or atmosphere adding into tension. But there's a lot of Russian being said, and I'd be kind of curious to know what was said. Like, it adds to the character of Vin Diesel, of Toorop,
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, because he has like a couple of conversations briefly with some people. It'd be interesting to know what he says. But I guess it's not, like you said, like, if they don't put it in, I guess it's considered important to the audience. So I guess it wasn't. Like, I thought that kid that he talked to was going to be in it, like, throughout the film or something, or he was going to be involved. Right. Never see him again. He literally has that one scene.
Exactly. His name is Toorop, Toorop.
Not Turok.
Nope, not that dinosaur hunter. And he lives in a Russian-speaking encampment. He talks to some people, cooks some dinner, and his place is blown open, and he's held up by a tiny army of heavily armed guys.
I thought it was cool how he knew. Like, shit, like, he's like, I'm fucked. and just kind of like took it almost. It's weird, but it was kind of cool at the same time.
I would be complaining is that he just cooked a deal. He had a glass of wine. He had a glass of red wine with his fish. It's not what you drink with fish, but he
or
had
his rabbit
there.
or whatever. Yeah,
was it rabbit?
Yeah.
I thought he was
rabbit and onions. Hey,
Mm,
don't knock
delicious.
it till you try it. You know,
I mean, he's a good cook.
it's
so,
a Russian
I guess.
delicacy.
They have been hired to bring him to a man named Gorsky, and Turop kills the main guy holding him up and goes with him. And this was such a swaggy show of power. That's where your beginning of this episode quote comes from. No balls, no word. But it is just like, hey, they even let him keep the guns on him. He just puts a jacket on and walks out with them. You know,
Because they know they can't do anything because they need him.
Yeah,
and he knows that too. So he could
absolutely.
He could kill them all
And
for all he knows.
This is one of this becomes one of the first really cool scenes in this movie. Turop is now inside a tank or an armored vehicle of some sort that's actually some sort of limo. Gorsky is there along with a woman and child, and Gorsky is hiring Turop to smuggle a girl to America. This is so dope on the inside of this thing.
Yeah, and it was playing Quiet Riot on the outside, like something you probably would see in an actual battlefield to get kind of intimidate the other or the people you're fighting, to be like, wow, they don't even give a fuck. They're just blasting music from their tank because we can't do anything, which I think is cool. But then all of a sudden it's a limo with like what looks like mid 2000s like video game graphics on it. I'm like, are these video games?
Those are Windows.
I know, but like I like the way it looked just reminded me of like mid 2000s like menu screens. Like it looked like Halo 3 or something. I'm just like
or Call of Duty 4.
Yeah, and I'm like, damn, I want to play whatever's in there. I know it's not a game, but I want to play a game.
Yeah. It was dope because it's like bright white. It's a limo. Like
Would you have lost your mind if it was a limo from Persona 4?
Oh yeah,
like just that guy.
Igor's in there. Yeah. Vin Diesel gets really confused about what the tarot cards mean.
Yeah. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, what's my mission?
What do you mean I have to give up my personas? I like them. They're like my Pokemon. He accepts and is dropped off. A car is also dropped off by helicopter, and he gets in and is taken away.
The big magnet there. What the hell?
Yeah, it's dope. That must be a bitch to fly. I don't know if that's actually possible.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen it
unless the helicopter was
before.
Big. That is not comfortable.
That's how they carried Magneto. Because a big magnet?
No. For a second, I'm like, no, it was the opposite. When he was in prison, it was all made of plastic.
But if he's such a big magnet, even Magneto can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, the Earth is one big magnet, so.
True.
He will never leave the Earth's atmosphere. He's forever grounded. Although, actually, that's how he flies, as he propels away.
Positives and negatives, brother.
Yep, that's what Ian McKellen said in that movie. Inside, Turop inspects the injector he was given, which is his passport, and he eventually arrives at the Noahite convent in Mongolia, an ancient ruin-looking place. I also like that there was a bottle of vodka, I believe it was, or just some hard liquor, and it was like empty. He was like upset, and then there's that like car DVD stereo thing, and it plays whatever was in there, and it's like, oh, this is a shitty ride. There he meets Sister Rebecca, spelled Rebeka, if you wanted to know, and explains to him his role. He is to ferry her and a girl, and the girl must not experience anything of the outside world.
Which, unfortunately, maybe the ride should have been different. Maybe that limo tank would have been better for her.
Put a tarp over the back of the car. I think
paint the windows. I don't know.
The point was, the way it was set up was like, because it's like, okay, we're still confused a bit about how the world is. There's a bit of a mystery there. It's like, is this a Truman Show thing? Is this climate change just destroyed everything except for some small pocket of cities? Was she born in captivity, is never seen outside? It's still unclear. So when this happens, I'm like, oh wow, she literally means like a sensory like
overload.
Or the opposite of that though. A sensory like when you're put in the black water tank and you don't get to see or hear or smell.
You're blind, basically.
Essentially, right?
Sensory blind, I guess you could say.
was one of those. That's what I was thinking that was going to be. But I think obviously now watching the movie is just like, hey, we don't want her to experience what's going on with all these other people because we want her to live. I think that's really what it meant. In any case, Turop is a dick to this idea. Like immediately we establish our dynamic with these two characters of Rebecca and Turop. So Turop is checking his equipment while he waits for them to get ready. There's that cool touchscreen map. Remember, this movie came out in 2008, was in production, I don't know when, but a little bit earlier, obviously, at least about 2 years at the very, on average, right? So iPhone is a 2007 product. So the map thing isn't necessarily a taken for granted. We all have iPads, etc. type of thing. So it was cool, and he was tapping it and sliding it like you would expect.
Yeah, and at this point in the movie too, I was like, oh, is this going to be loosely a science fiction film? Like I mentioned it on the show before. I think a good science fiction movie has to have technology in it that is believable but yet new. You know, something that's like, oh, I could see us having that in 100 years or whatever, and it's not. So it's not like
this fold out map becomes a touchable screen. Isn't insane.
Yeah,
you know,
and I'm sure someone's probably working on something like that. You know, and that's what I like about
we
it.
we have foldable OLED screens.
Like,
on
that's what I'm saying. It's
now,
totally
so
possible to, like, in the future you could buy this at the gas station or something.
Yeah. Weird that he just leaves the map in the back of the car. Maybe it was attached to the car, like a
to
GPS.
me, it's like almost like a Google Maps, but like a one that's like you don't have to worry if your phone dies or something. It's like I could see that. And that's what I could see happening in real life. Is like there being like a Google Maps. Okay, you want here's a map of Texas.
You know how people used to buy those like not almanacs, but like the gigantic world atlas or country or state atlases, and you keep them in the back seat of the car just in case.
Yeah,
it almost seems like that's a replacement. You buy this new Nissan Altima, and it has one of these in the back. It's plugged into the thing. If you're stranded and your phone's dead, you can use this device. But
and it tracks your location or something. Yeah.
Yes, it does something. It can find you at the very least.
So
it knows at least where you are.
I would say +1
exactly,
for that.
Yeah. Film takes place in 2058, apparently. I don't think it says so in the movie, but stuff I was looking up was saying that. So
beat that Blade Runner in Cyberpunk.
Both of those are really great video game and movies. Everyone likes them.
Yes.
He meets the girl, and they set off. She asks him a couple personal questions, but he knows to avoid them. And this, to me, is the first instance of, this is not Riddick. Riddick would just immediately be a dick and just push further against what Rebecca had said, and straight up, like, go into it. But here he knows, you know what, I'm just not going to. Not worth that.
Yeah, I mean, he does say that, like, I'm not your friend, boyfriend, father, or whatever. And also this,
I'm the delivery boy.
And this scene in particular, to me, goes against another scene later on in this movie, which I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about, where I'm like, this to me establishes that she is young, and also, either like just not informed of the world. Nubile, I guess you would say. You know what I mean? Just like, and he's kind of telling her, like, I'm the adult, you listen to me.
Yeah.
There's that dynamic.
We'll get there when we get there. I know exactly what you're talking about. Turns out this bitch is 20, at least.
I'm like, I thought for sure she was like 16, 17.
Oh, 17 max. Max.
I mean, she's young looking, so I'm like, I guess you could say there's people out there who do look younger than they actually are.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I was like, I guess she's 18 when that other scene comes up. But I don't know what the rule is. Maybe it's different because this is a French film, so I guess.
It's a French novel, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
French are much more into that shit. I don't know.
Sure. We then cut to the girl's mother of some sort in some sort of hospital-type setting and is referred to as Highness. She is notified that her daughter has left the convent, and we cut again to Troitsk, Kazakhstan. Detroit's Kazakhstan.
Detroit.
Becoming human.
Kazakhstan. What if it just said Detroit, Kazakhstan?
I mean, we got Mexico, New York, and you know what I mean. It's
but it's
cool.
Clearly Michigan. They just call it Kazakhstan.
You know how we have like Chinatown?
Yeah, it's
you know what I
this is
mean,
a
and
Detroit.
some sections of cities that have like burrito places and stuff that's clearly south of the border type of stuff.
There's a Ford.
I want to see in Eastern European countries. You know, this is our little Detroit. this is Michigan
there's a
town.
Ford factory here. It's cool. We have
Sick.
that rapper Ryan Scott. You know, he's cool.
I remember that.
I think Eminem's also from Michigan, so throw Eminem in there.
I think that's partially the joke. Is like he is the best one from Michigan, best white rapper from Michigan.
We just made a reference to another podcast from 10 years ago. At this point,
Jesus, yeah. They leave the car and head for a train. Turop grabs his guns and offers one to Rebecca, who declines. Turop makes them change into something he pulled out of the market, which I doubt he paid for. And we learn that they've already been spotted by satellites from the girl's father. And it is unclear if the father is with the mother in that sense on the same side, or if they're enemies, or if this is hey, we're tracking him to make sure he's doing his job. We're tracking the process. That was my thinking at first for this part. But this is also where we start to see some people starting to be around, being kind of creepy and watching. Heading through a crowded market, the girl is scared and constantly distracted. Something about this sensory avoidance is not happening here. Like, there's no effort. It's like I said, throw a sheet over her head. You can't see.
I also want to talk about this whole scene, too, and just in general. Not saying I don't agree with it or whatnot, but I just find it interesting that in a lot of Western movies that take place in Eastern or Western movies makers or whatnot that make movies about Eastern Europe, it always has the same stereotypes of like gray, gritty, and so many
lines you wait in,
poor people,
socialism,
yeah, or whatever, or the fall of a socialist society, whatever. I actually have been to an Eastern European countries as Slovakia, and it definitely is like has some elements of this. But they like put it up to 11, I swear. Granted, I haven't been to every Eastern European country. I'm sure there's places like this. But guess what? There's also places like this in other parts of the world.
In this country.
So it's like,
yeah.
I just find it funny.
Well, again, this is also supposed to be 2058 and blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah,
yeah.
blah. But there's a stereotype here.
This could have easily been 1991.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like, it's just kind of chaos, but it's kind of controlled.
It's controlled because there are people with weapons around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These little factions, pretty much.
Yeah. As Turop stops to get tickets, the girl wanders over to a tiger and freaks. They then get into a crowd, and she runs away and freaks even more. An explosion happens at the crowd they were in, and it seems she knew it was gonna happen.
I was gonna say I read that whole scene as like she was having like an anxiety attack of just like there's so many people around, and I don't blame her if she's never seen more than the 5 women she's in her nun school or whatever. So I don't blame her when all of a sudden there's all these people around her and she's kind of getting swarmed. And
she got like,
and Vin does a terrible job of like actually for a guy who's a professional. I would assume he would just have her handcuffed to me straight up. You know what I mean? At this point, and especially you're going to go into a crowd like this. But yeah, her anxiety attack turns into a premonition. Yeah, and I like how when it blows up, there's like this one group of people who are just like carrying something still, like as if nothing ever happened, and then like Vin's like, "Let's go." It's like, are we just not going to like talk about it? And they never talk about it.
No one else is,
and no one ever mentioned it again. Of like, who
weird.
did that? Was it the bad guys? Was this a terrorist attack? Was this
right?
At one point,
this is just what happened.
Or at one point, I thought maybe it was her who did it.
Oh,
but they never explain it. They just keep on moving the story. I'm like, okay. That's when I was a little worried. This is when I started getting worried about this film because up to this point, I was like, okay, like some of the dialogue was goofier, maybe wasn't executed well, but this is kind of cool. This is different, like especially for Vin. You know, I was like, this is cool. Then I'm like, I'm like, okay, that was like just felt so random, and then.
Yeah. Well, it's for me, Where it fell off for me is later on, because as soon as I saw that they got out of the car and he said, "Oh, we're getting on a train" or whatever, I'm like, "Oh, like this is a road trip movie, a journey movie, a destination, a travel movie." So I'm like, okay, I like this structure of film, of story, and this is one stop on that. I actually liked this up until a point. So it didn't happen to me as early.
I'm not
as
saying I
it
didn't like
you.
it at this point. I was just starting to get concerned. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. The action's cool or whatnot, or like the intensity is kind of interesting. I like the setting. Once again, it's kind of dope.
And Vin Diesel's performing very well during this. Like, it really does feel like he knows what the fuck he's doing. Obviously, it's written, you know what I mean, that way. But he's acting, I felt like he was doing very good. Like, to me, this is much better acting than Pitch Black, for instance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And this is the same. This is supposed to be the same type of anti-hero character, begrudgingly having to do something he wouldn't want to do. He's getting attached is not something he's, you know what I mean? But it's just done way better than that early 2000s film. So, after that explosion, Turop calmly leads them to the train, where they enter and get seats. The girl, whose name is Aurora, asks about the tigers, and Turop asks about how she knew about the explosion. They enter a radiation tunnel after Rebecca deflects Turop's questions. So this is part of the mystery now. How did you know about the explosion?
Also,
Rebecca said she was just scared.
Why was Rebecca, her name was, right? Why was she just holding that person's kid?
I saw that briefly too. I thought that was their coats or something. Was that a child?
It looked like she was holding someone's child, like the lady's child.
Because Vin Diesel was
behind.
sitting next to someone, random person.
Maybe that's part of the 70 minutes they cut. They went into that more.
I mean, there's an entire country they go through that we don't see anything about. So,
I mean, they definitely went through Chernobyl or whatever it was, or something like that.
Yeah.
A nucular.
Well, I mean, just mean like
happened.
later with Canada. They're like, okay, we're going through Canada. We're all of a sudden in the airport leaving. Okay. Goodbye, Canada. We're flying to New York City. Whatever. Now I'm sorry about the pronunciation of some of these locations. Vladivostok, a Russian refugee camp. It's spelled Vladivostok. Vladivostok. A Russian refugee camp. Turop leads them through the snow and through a security checkpoint into a club. Turop is looking for a friend of his named Finn.
This is my shit. If you've listened to the episodes, you know I love my Eastern European clubs. If you put an Eastern European
cage fight
club in your movie, you get automatically at least 1 star. It doesn't even matter what you do in the rest of the movie. You automatically get 1 star. So I can't even, when we do the rankings, I have to keep that in mind, that there was, in fact, a Eastern club scene. And guess what? This one's a little different, too. This looks like an abandoned factory. And there's, like, fights happening that you can watch, or you can watch strippers. It's amazing. Like, what else?
John Wick.
Like, what is there not
and,
to love here?
Triple X.
Yeah, this is dope. So, plus 1 star. There you go. Good job.
Turop finds Finn, and he explains to him what he needs, and Finn agrees. And Aurora and Rebecca watch a cage fighter kill his opponent. And I don't know if you caught it. Guess what the cage fighter's name is?
I didn't catch it, no.
Killa.
Oh my!
That's what he's done. At least that's what he's called. He's clearly like a...
They could have just picked like a Russian word for like an animal and it would have sounded cool. You know what I mean? Like Wolverine. You know, or whatever the Russian word is for like bird or something like that.
This person is very much like portrayed as a animal. Like, he does not have the intelligence of a human, but that doesn't make him a monster kind of a thing. That's kind of what they were going for a bit, I guess, whatever. As they go to head out, they are stopped by a group that had been tracking them, and they offer Turop seemingly twice what he's being paid for to turn the girl over to them.
Which I don't know why he doesn't take. Really?
Ultimately, yes. And then this is a scene I wanted to mention earlier, because he makes a run for it with them. Riddick would have immediately turned her over. Right then and there. Yep, I'll take the money, sure. Goodbye, don't want this smoke. Don't want this hassle. Don't want this trouble. I don't want your fucking business. I don't give a shit about anything that you're going about. I'll take twice what I was offered. Goodbye.
I still also have the chip that I can just...
Which I did not put in me yet.
Yeah, like I could easily just still go back to the United States, which was his main goal of why he was even doing this.
Yeah, but he has a bit of honor to him, and I like this more. Granted, it didn't feel like he was too much of an anti-hero in how they portrayed his interactions with people that aren't the people he's being hired to, like, carry through. There really isn't a scene where, like, there's a poor boy in the street and he needs some food, and Riddick in front of Aurora, or not Riddick, see, I called him Riddick, and Turop in front of Aurora doesn't give him anything. There really isn't any scenes like that to really show, no, this guy is a dick. So, like, very quickly they drop the anti-hero stuff. He just becomes a begrudgingly griddled veteran type of bodyguard. But I felt like this is much better of an anti-hero type character still than Riddick was, at least in Pitch Black alone, and as well as parts of just the Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, I generally agree. Yeah.
Like, this is where, like, it differentiated it for me. Straight up, I'm like, I can see those fucking Riddick goggles on him right now as he takes the bag and turns the girl over to the good guys. By the way, if he knew that in hindsight, oh
yeah.
my God, he'd be kicking himself.
Yeah, for sure.
During the scuffle that ensued, Aurora somehow ended up in the cage fight.
Literally, like, out of all the places to go into.
She just got. I didn't rewind it, but I kind of wish I did. I think Killa pulled her in there as we find out he was trying to protect her, maybe to get her away
Which
from
I
the bad
I didn't get that
guys.
vibe. Maybe,
but it was very quick, so I think she just stumbled into it.
Yeah, I didn't get that
Turop,
vibe. By the way, I definitely had a like.
I had a "I want to fuck you" vibe.
Yeah. I'm an
like
animal.
from him. Yeah. And as Turop enters to get her out, he is now inadvertently the title match against Killa. So the gates are locked, and he has to now fight him.
And he's not much bigger than Vin, but like he's definitely has the size on him. And like Vin's big in this movie,
And
but
a
like,
ferocity.
He's like at least 6'8",
yeah,
250 pounds of muscle. It looked like dude's ripped.
Gross.
So,
well, Turop kills him pretty easily. He like turns his neck 180. But Aurora seems to know that Killa didn't want to hurt her. Interesting. As the door opens, the men chasing them tell Aurora that they were sent by her father, and Aurora decides to go with them, which is not what the plan is. Rebecca's like, no, your father's dead. And I'm a bit confused because, again, we find out later from Rebecca that okay, I guess let me rewind. Here, my first thought was, oh, she knows about the father, blah, 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 and she's lying to the girl.
yeah.
But when we find out later, no, she just was told that the father is dead. You know what I mean?
And he
So,
faked
like,
his death or whatever.
No, I don't, like, she didn't know anything about him.
Yeah, I know.
All she knew is, like, this is a girl, and now an orphan, she wants to take care of this child. So, like, her interactions there isn't more of, like, you're lying. Why would you try to trick her? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, your father's dead. In a weird nod that's like, I actually know he's alive. But whatever. Turop and Rebecca give chase and catch up. Turop shoots one of them, I think fatally, which causes Aurora to stop going with them. Basically, and I knew their names because they popped up on the Amazon Prime X-ray thing. All the main people, father's henchmen.
Yeah.
The main one there, the black guy, the French black guy, says they're willing to die for you. And it's very obviously because as soon as the one falls, they immediately line back up to make another wall. It's like, fuck. And she's like, that's the problem. I don't
how
want
much
that.
do you need to get paid to like be like,
Oh my God.
I guess I'm standing in this
It's not about pay at that point. It's about fighting for a cause. It's about terrorism, freedom fighter type shit.
I guess.
Avalanche. Would you die for the planet, Cloud? Would you?
No.
So then Aurora just goes with them. Now, at the Bering Strait, Finn takes Turop and company,
which I don't think
in a large group.
Isn't the Bering Strait like? Wasn't that?
Isn't it water?
I was gonna say,
No.
wasn't that? Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it water currently? But wasn't that in like the Ice Age how they the theory
how they crossed over.
That's
here,
the
yeah.
theory of how Native Americans came from Asia.
Yeah.
So it's here now, I guess. It's back, baby. Bearing Strait 2. Come get it.
I mean, climate change somehow made that a thing again. Anyway, they're all traveling in a large group, and we learn that there are way too many people in this group, and that a situation might happen. And I wasn't quite. I didn't realize it was going to be a submarine. I thought they were going to cause an explosion or something and kill them.
It's funny as I guessed when I was watching it out loud. I was like, oh yes, we call submarine or whatever it was, and then it wind up coming. I'm like, oh, I was fucking joking. I feel like there's no way it's gonna be a submarine. I thought it was gonna be whales or something that they're gonna use as a distraction.
I just thought they were getting on a boat.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was a bridge.
but,
I thought they were gonna walk up to
I
the
do like
end.
this scene a lot because I feel like this is what we actually I don't know to the details, but I feel like this it's like a refugee issue that we see in present day.
Oh, yep.
And I feel like you can kind of point to that. And I don't remember what it was like in 2009 because we were younger in terms of refugees and whatnot. But like at least in Europe now, that's like a big hot topic issue is refugees and and what to do with them and how do we do that. And since this is like basically illegal, like the submarine, basically it's just treating all of them as cattle. They're like, we're just trying to get all the money for bringing these people over, but we don't want to risk losing this operation. So they're like, they'll start shooting them and whatnot. And I thought that was insane. But I can honestly see this shit happening
in real life.
In real life, especially if climate change, escalates.
Right. Somalian pirates might be doing this shit for money, that type of stuff. So a submarine breaches the ice, and there is a mad dash to climb aboard. Not everyone makes it, of course, and people are dying. Vin Diesel was even one of these people, and he pulls down one of the submarine crewmates. Like, he essentially kills one of them to climb up, and no one does anything about that, which I thought was interesting. Aurora gets a gun and freaks out, trying to force the sub to go back. She's weirdly pressing all the right buttons and pulling all the right levers and stuff.
Which I didn't really understand until Vin explained it later. I thought she was just like a
cat on a keyboard,
like a dumb kid being like, "I'm mad," and like it tries to turn off your car while driving on a highway. I'd be pissed too.
But she is taken down and screams that she can feel them dying, which is interesting. Now here is a question for you. This movie, when it gets to its third act, fucks everything up, jumbles everything, yada yada. To skip ahead, we learn that all of this stuff going on with her is the fact that she is pregnant with AI babies that are using their own sense of self-preservation to make mommy do things and know things. So why the fuck do they care about all the people outside the submarine?
She had that.
You know what I mean?
She had that instance with when Vin was choking the killer there. Whatever his name was, the boxer there. She was like, "Don't kill him." Like, there's a sense of like, maybe that's they're trying to say like the preservation is so strong that they don't want other people to die either.
But I thought there it was just like, oh well, he was trying to protect me. I thought I was leaning on that angle. For this, it was literally just like.
That's where my brain was going, where there was a sense of, like, she just cares about people a lot. She doesn't want to see death, which I guess is understandable.
Obviously, you wouldn't want that, but yeah. Interesting. I wonder how the novel approached this aspect.
I also want to say at this scene, too, with the way that she acted.
Titled Babylon Babies, by the way.
Babylon Babies. Makes more sense now. But with this scene, too, and how she acted, like I was talking about a kid in a car. But once again, this cemented in my brain that she is a kid or a teen, not an adult.
Yeah,
but we'll get there. We're working our way up for the tension that existed.
Oh, fucking hot tension
that they never showed ever until randomly.
Well, I mean, captivity in a convent of all women. I've never experienced that in my life. I'm also a white man. Not saying that that's an excuse, but I would imagine there is some sort of thing there for people that have happened to have that in real life, not written by a French white man in a novel about the future. So, but I'm saying that is the only thing I could think of for what we'll talk about later.
Regardless if the idea is true, they didn't do a good job.
It's a bad story. Hey, maybe there's 50 minutes of them giving each other dirty looks, and you give me fuck me eyes the whole time.
Well, yeah, like Vin saves her at one point, and she's like, "Oh,
nice pectoral muscles.
Oh, thanks for grabbing me, Vin, on this snowmobile, you
She
dirty
calls him
dog."
Vin. All right, let's move on. Later, in a calm moment, Rebecca tells Turop a bit more about her story and Aurora's. We learn that 3 months prior, and this makes more sense now that we know that she's pregnant, she started getting spasms and freakouts, and that she always had been special. When the father explains the backstory too, I'd also like to talk about how I'm a bit confused, and this feels like a Metal Gear Solid bad C plot.
There's a couple C plots in this, sir, and they're not.
No, there is.
Some of them end, some of them don't.
There was a scene I thought was the climax. Turns out that wasn't. And then the scene that is the climax, I would have not expected to be the climax. So, whatever. The sub is now surfacing, and Finn tells Turop he thinks Aurora is essentially a biological weapon. She's carrying a viral bomb. And imagine how much that is worth. And Turop basically says, if this bitch is a bomb, I'm going to kill her and burn the body. And she sees that. She recognizes that. Which, again, anti-hero stuff, changing this man a bit, still knows, hey, why the fuck would you want this? This is not cool. Maybe this starts to sow a seed in his mind that he's delivering an explosive bomb to New York City. Potentially.
Hey, but money's
now
money,
the group...
though.
I mean, hey, he gets to go home to 27 Cedar Grove in upstate New York.
Which I would think...
Very similar to my address as a kid. I was like, huh?
Would you have lost your mind if, like, that's where he went? Like, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this movie was filmed? That's what that... And, like, you remember you as a kid, for some reason, you're like, wait a minute, I do remember there being a filming crew there. It's like full circle.
Now the group is on a pair of snowmobiles and are being traced by drones. Some pretty cool-looking 2007-ish era film drones, pre-MCU, where every drone is awesome.
Pre-Obama,
and cool and,
yeah.
Yeah. Turop blows one up with a gun, and then kickflips his snowmobile Triple X style into the second one.
I feel like this was cool, but also, now that I think about it, came out of nowhere because everything was pretty grounded up until this point, besides maybe some like the not martial arts, but loose martial arts that we saw in the club. Up until this point, I'm just like, where did this... Like, this is like Triple X just
This
came
is
out of
a
nowhere.
Triple X or Riddick style thing where Riddick would have known exactly what to done with that snowmobile. You know what I mean?
Like, Lily does a backflip,
make it
pulls out a
happen.
gun, and shoots backwards and lands it. Like, he's Tony Hawk or whatever. Or whoever the snowmobile version of Tony Hawk is.
Shaun White,
I guess.
Well, he's snowboarding, but whatever. Turop is down and bleeding out. Aurora is able to remove the shrapnel and bandage him up, but Finn uses this opportunity to take control of the situation and double-cross them. Turop shoots him.
Classic.
Never trust anyone.
See? Got him.
I told ya.
Got him.
Told ya. That night, they celebrate in a tent, D&D style.
I was going to say, that's what I thought of. We've been, people who don't know, we've been doing Dungeons & Dragons, and like...
No one would know.
No one would know. That's right. No one knows, but we do Dungeons & Dragons. Now you know. And in Dungeons & Dragons, we have, like, snow tents.
Shitty-ass tent in the snow, yeah.
But those look a lot more comfy, to be honest. Like, I kind of want one to just have in case I ever go winter camping.
What I've learned with tents, and obviously you've used tents way more than me, whatever the number it says it comfortably fits, double that, or half that, and that's the number of people that can actually be in
You're
there.
not supposed to be...
A 4-person tent, that's 2 people.
Yeah.
If you want to enjoy your experience, you know.
For sure.
Unless you're in a polygamy sort of...
Hey, man. Gets wild in that tent.
Yeah. That night in the tent, they celebrate, and the happy scene is cut short when Aurora just casually states that they're all going to die in New York City.
I almost made this the line, but since this is the Chronicles of Diesel, I had to make it a Vin line. But this would have been my line where she's like, "We're all going to die in New York City. Good night." Kid, what?
They were like right before they were like, "We're a family. We protected each other like family." And Vin Diesel's even like, "Yeah, I'm gonna share some of my alcohol, which might be hard to find in this post-apocalyptic." Seemingly up to this point, all we see is post-apocalyptic environments with people that don't even drink.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He is feeling it now, but
feeling it now, Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm gonna say this. Her saying that felt very childish. That's all I'm going to say. Just reiterating that. Scene number 3 where that happened.
Outside, Turop starts to ditch his weapons, and Aurora comes out to chat. We learn how she got her name, and we learn that Turop wants to go home to his family farm in upstate New York. Let's fucking go. I like how he has to specify it's near Canada.
Like the Adirondacks, like, okay, thank you.
Like, I get it. We lived in upstate New York, but there was a lake between us and Canada. Like, it still is considered upstate.
Western,
whatever.
But
literally the way it works for upstate, anything north of New York City is still considered upstate.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because New York City is the hub of the state. But whatever. The next morning, the three of them finish their trek to Kitsmat, Canada, and stop at a motel. Turop takes a shower and injects himself with his passport. And this is pretty cool, by the way, that the mirror is actually a screen of a camera. Did you catch that too? There was like a webcam feed that was popping up.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before in like a couple like science fiction movies. I know it happens in Cyberpunk. Actually, there's like a camera element to it.
Weird. And Vin Diesel has a very awkward interaction with Aurora, and Rebecca walks in. So I was definitely watching this being like, excuse me? This child is giving very sexual attention. Vin Diesel's in a towel, and Aurora's in pajamas of some sort, or about to take her shower too, something like that. And like they get real close, and you see a shot of her ass. And it's like Rebecca walks in and is like, oh. But like, did not realize until later in the movie when they say that she's pregnant and that the father said it had been at least 20 years since she was born. And I'm like, oh, she is an adult. But here, yeah, like, this is a kid. What are you doing, Vin Diesel?
I did look up because I made a joke earlier that I'm like, oh, the French are like this. That's a joke, generalizing. I'm not saying French people are into children, but the French age of consent is 15. So, like...
In Japan, it's 14.
So, I mean, like, over there, this might be less weird. For us Americans, it's like, you better look 18 and be 18 in a movie if you're going to be doing all this. But once again, regardless of what we think, how old she is, if you portray her character as a child multiple times up until this point, it feels weird. And Vin Diesel's like this grown-ass man. He's not... You could even hint that, like, oh, maybe he's in his late 20s. Like, no, he's at least 35
The
minimum.
movie goes out of its way to specify he is a veteran contract killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And plus, too, she acts childish. She acts bratty. She acts annoying to Turop. Turop, in no part of this movie, gives any interest, straight up interest at all. Like, I want to know more about this person interest, let alone sexual interest in this person. So it is completely...
Neither does she. And, like, we were talking about earlier how, like, she's been away in the school or whatever, and, like, maybe that's the arc they were doing. They didn't do a good job of doing that. When this scene was starting to happen, I was like, oh, maybe, like, I would have let this slide, was that, like, she's never seen a man before.
That was my maybe thinking.
Yeah, and then he turns around and Vin's hot, and she's, like, flustered. That's how I thought this scene was going to be. And then Vin was going to be like, oh, hey, are you showering or something? Like, I thought that's how the scene was going to go. And, like, I think that would have been fine and kind of would have shown that, like, hey, she's young. She hasn't seen the world. Even though she's a robot or whatever she is, she doesn't know what a man looks like. And, like, I guess you could have done that. I think that would have been fine. But the fact that they almost kissed, and maybe worse.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know if any of this aspect of this potential arc was in the stuff that was cut.
They could have just
again,
cut this.
Upwards, over an hour was potentially cut.
They could have cut this because it was only... They could have easily just shown him injecting it in, and then they cut straight to them going to the passport. Or they could have had him doing it on the plane or something.
I think they needed to have something like this in the film because they need at the end for her to say that she's going to trust Vin Diesel with her babies. Whatever.
You could have done that by him clearly risking his life multiple times to make sure that she gets to New York City.
I feel like the third act of this movie is even worse than pedophilia. So it's a bigger crime than pedophilia. Oh, and pedophilia is a bad crime in and of itself. They take a bus to the airport and then fly to New York City. Very straight up. They just skip Canada. Okay, sure. As they take a cab through the city, we see ads featuring the mother-like figure from the start of the movie, and it all sure seems ominous. Our rise is tomorrow. Be there.
By the way, they were flying on a Coca-Cola Zero plane. What was that about?
Hell yeah, Coke Zero. Shit. Well, I legitimately love Coke. Coca-Cola Zero sugar.
No, I mean, I just don't get it. I'm like, was that an ad placement? Was that like their prediction of the future that like Coca-Cola or like these...
Well, doesn't that happen with planes in real life?
I mean, there's corporations, but it's American Airlines. There's Delta.
But there are no ads on planes, on the sides of planes?
No, not to my... I flew a decent amount in my life. I don't remember. Maybe there is, and please tell me if someone's listening and that's like a normal thing. Tell me, but not to my knowledge. I mean, there's like sport teams planes, if you count that. Like, I've seen the Orlando Magic plane before in Florida, and that was cool. But like,
maybe that's what I'm thinking about. In any case, I love me some Coke Zero. Good for them, you know. Small independent company getting their comeuppance in a big movie like Babylon AD. They arrive at a nice home, and we learn that the convent was blown up, killing everyone.
Classic.
Gorsky calls Turop, and it seems like this was his doing. I was still confused. I'm like...
By the way, I want to say this city is very Blade Runner-y. Like, pretty verbatim.
It's New York with
Cyberpunk.
Neon ads everywhere.
Yeah. I saw a building that said...
There's a neon sign that just said sin.
Really? I saw a sign...
Yeah.
I saw a sign
That's
that
Cyberpunk.
I saw a sign that said, I think it was PlayStation... Yeah, PlayStation Vintage, it said on the sign. And it showed video games. It was like, at one point they showed the skyline. And I'm like, huh.
Ooh.
Hey,
so
now we remember, we're going to be old enough by 2058 that if they drop a PlayStation Vintage, we'll be like, wow, Sony watched it, Babylon AD. Big fans.
The No Lights and Gorsky's men are all outside to ensure Turop delivers Aurora. And it's kind of unclear at this moment if they're actually together and they're like here to fuck up Turop, or if you don't bring in your side of the bargain, we're going to fuck you up. Oh, if we deliver your guy and you don't pay us, we're going to fuck you up. That's what it ended up actually being. But I was a bit confused. Rebecca identifies the doctor who was mentioned earlier in the movie as the person that did a bunch of tests on Aurora and is now heading to their door. The doctor, a creepy fuck, runs a quick test on her finger and leaves.
I'll be honest, based off just some of the weird shit that we've seen up until this point, I thought, cause I saw they had gloves in there, I thought he was going to look in her vagina.
I did not think that at all.
Because she's pregnant. Like he was going to do like
we'd find that afterwards.
I was thinking he was going to do like a test or whatever. I don't know anything about vaginas, obviously, or women's normal doctor visits, the details. So maybe
in the future, you don't need a pee on a stick. You just get a glucose test.
A doctor comes in really creepily and says, or does your glucose. And he's like, oh, you're good.
Exactly.
Enjoy your AI babies, your twins.
He does that quick test and he leaves. Turop is convinced that Aurora is carrying a viral bomb inside her, but Aurora comes out and says she's pregnant with twins.
Whoa.
But she's never been touched by a man. Rebecca's like, I have watched you your whole life. No one has ever touched you. She's like, and no one had.
Or she's like, bitch, you remember that one time in 8th grade?
In 8th grade, and I'm still pregnant.
No, I meant just like in general.
That's right, because she's still
I'm
a
saying
kid.
like in general that like she doesn't know. Like she's like,
yeah.
I've been banging since 7th. Something crazy like that.
They leave the building, and our big climactic fight begins. Oh, well, I forgot to change that. It's not the climactic fight. Not
A lot of camera shake that almost made me nauseous.
Ugh, it's bad. It's one of those things to hide what's going on to make it seem like there's
I don't
a lot.
mind
like,
it here and there, but like
thing.
it was at moments too. I had to look away at moments. I'm just like, this is.
But it also happened when they were being chased in the club too, and
It
that's how I had no idea how she got in the cage.
Yeah, it was a little bit better in at least there, like in terms of my motion sickness, but it was pretty bad with the cars and the camera angles and the different punching, and it was trying to jump from Vin's fight to the other person's fight and this person's fight to this guy shooting a bullet, and I'm like,
yeah,
chill, relax.
No light goons fight with Gorski bikers as soon as Turop breaks away and they try to run. The doctor, by the way, was like, "Oh, we have more tests to do on her."
Once again, that's
okay,
why
whatever.
I was thinking, I'm like, this guy is one of those doctors, man.
A missile linked to Turop's passport is tracking him, and he splits off from them to get it off their tail. The group fights through the street, and Rebecca is shot and killed. Oh no, you must protect her. Another missile is launched, and Aurora shoots Turop so that the missile doesn't hit him, and it hits her instead?
We don't know.
Is that what happens?
We don't know.
I was confused in that moment. I'm like, what? I understand if they wanted to be like...
I think that's scarier than like heat seeking. Like it's like, no, it's literally a chip in your GPS. It will find you. No,
Yeah.
That's a cool concept for a movie if like someone shot a missile from like on the opposite side of the globe. Like it will find, like you're like, we have one day.
That's your prison escape movie. It's like, you're injected with this thing. If you leave, they will just blow your ass up. Don't matter where you go.
I mean, I guess that's Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, they kind of. They have just a thing in their neck that is
Which
the thing.
to me
that
is more
blows
like
up,
Saw, where like at any moment your head could just get blown off or get into a bear trap.
Yeah, I mean, Suicide Squad, I understand, like, had a comic book series, but there was a Batman Arkham video game series animated movie tie-in called Escape from Arkham, I think. That is essentially what the Suicide Squad movie kind of based its idea off of, and that movie was dope. The Batman in it the whole time was not actually Batman. It was dope. It's dope. I love that movie. Only saw it once, though. Some time seems to have passed, and in the aftermath, we see that the High Priestess, that woman from before, tells us that they are the bad guys. Essentially, like, we want to make sure we are the dominant religion. I'm telling us the plan that we all knew, but I need to spell it out loud. Maybe the same bad guys from that Assassin's Creed movie or something.
You joke about that, and once we get to the end of this, I have something to connect to that.
Okay. Like, wow, we need to be the dominant religion.
Yes. Overlords, the ill.
We need our virgin birth. Now, this movie was released in 2008.
Great year.
Amazing year, yep. Hope and change were around the corner. We know now in a 2021 mindset about the past 5 years that simply having someone say, yo, this bitch never even fucked. This is a virgin birth. We know that no one would believe that. Everyone, like, even if there was proof somehow, like, that would just be like, no, I don't believe that. Like, their idea is just like, we just say, look, this woman gave birth and she's never had a man lay a finger on her. Join our religion. We're the new Christianity. We're the no-lights, essentially. Their expectation, or people would just be bowing to their culture, their religion. In real life, that would not happen. People like, prove it.
I don't know, man.
There would be people, obviously, that would believe it.
There's some crazy Catholics out there now that I feel like if there was some scenario like this, they would.
If they're just told,
yes.
You just see a news story that says that.
There's people who believe that a Jewish Death Star exists.
It does. I got my passport to fly to it. It's cool. I'm gonna be one of the maintenance.
I'm just saying, there's people who believe that. then
I get
anything
it, but like,
is possible.
But at
in
the
our
same time,
timeline.
there's still plenty of people that see evidence and factual information
Yes.
about things
Maybe it
that have
wouldn't be as
happened. And
big
are like,
as
no, I
it
don't
wouldn't be
believe
as
that.
big as them, but I know, like, I can guarantee we'd at least know one person.
Well, then fuck it. Let's bamboozle a bunch of these people and get rich.
I think that's how flat earthers.
I will get pregnant. And
That's
get
how flat
babies.
earthers
I'm
and
in.
QAnon, I think, stemmed. It was starting off as like a meme, and then people are like, "But what if it's true?" The virgin birth.
But it is. Hey man, in 5
we'd
years,
have
I'll work
virgin
my
birth
way up to
Facebook
operating the laser.
pages. And it'll just be a minion
The
meme
VB.
saying like, "Guess what? This girl never touched a man, and she gave birth to twins."
And she's such a dork, she never will.
That's so mean. Oh shit.
It looks like Turop didn't die because he's now awake at Dr. Darquandier's secret lab place. Darquandier
forgot
is a
about
word I
until
had
this
to
point,
keep
and I'm like,
looking up
oh.
how to spell. Darquandier. This was written by a Frenchman, Dr. Darquandier. Turok has been technically dead and is now told a lot of exposition. Darquandier was a scientist that tried to implant AI babies in people, and the No-Lights came to him and he made Aurora. She is...
I like how he mentioned he was banned from the science community for that. I'm like, yeah, fucking no shit.
this is like super eugenics. Like, you're making a super race.
Am I supposed to feel bad in that situation? I'm like, no. I'd be like, if I was Vin, I'd be like, I'm gonna crush your skull. I don't need to, but I'm gonna, because now I have the
Did
power.
you say if
to.
I was Venom?
No, if I was Vin, I would.
Oh, I thought you said if I was Venom, I would...
Listen, if I was Venom
is
in that
this?
situation, I would have symbioted him. All right.
We are Venom. She has a supercomputer mom, and she's great and all that. So this is I am confused about this scenario. Maybe explaining this will unconfuse me. So we learn at the end she has AI babies with AI in them. Somehow
In their names, they actually don't have AI. They're just like Brian,
Ashley, and Isaiah. Those are the two names, A and I. They are using their sense of self-preservation as super babies to keep mommy alive.
This is actually
and knowing shit.
This is actually the prequel to the Boss Baby.
Yeah. Fuck off. But when Aurora was born, or after 2 years, she was speaking 19 languages because she's got a supercomputer mom thing. But Darquandier injected her with the AI babies. So why does it matter that she had the supercomputer mom thing? You know what I mean?
I think
because otherwise, is it saying that if he never injected her and she had that supercomputer mom, and so she was an AI baby, so to speak.
Thought
she just naturally grew people inside her.
I thought she was born out of a computer, like she was a test tube baby. But like her main purpose was to be for that mother there, to be proof of a virgin.
Right, but then, like, how did they make it so that she would have the babies?
They injected her.
The supercomputer just
on.
made babies?
I don't know.
It's weird. Maybe that's what the scientists did in the 3 months prior, or the doctor did. Whatever. This story sucks. At least how it's presented in this movie. It sucks.
It's interesting, but also terribly, terribly executed.
This third act is what I'm like, oh, no, this is bad. This is not good. This is not good. Now it seems like they can't find Aurora either and need to re-kill Turop to get his brain to tell him what it saw when he died the first time.
Which
Whatever.
is like, once again, like Cyberpunk 2077. It's like the brain dances. Or is this
Who
like
gives
that?
a fuck?
But this is kind of cool. I do like the idea of... That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, but this was so unnecessary. This is just randomly, now we have another layer. We need to re-kill you.
They could have...
It's like, motherfucker.
They could have easily just been like, Vin wakes up and he's like, oh yeah, I remember she like didn't die. Like she like took the blast and then I died. Like that. That would have been, I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
In any case, through a fucked up memory experiment, they find that Aurora told Turok to go home before he died. It was a cool scene, but like I said, unnecessary. We cut to the High Priestess on a phone call with Gorski that serves no purpose other than to show us that she is still a bad guy by killing Gorski. This served no purpose. She learned no information. She obviously didn't need to relay information to Gorski. It doesn't matter if she did not pay him. For us, the audience that will never see her again.
This scene also was terribly acted for both parties. Like, you can tell that they both just weren't in the same room when they acted this or anything. Because she's like, I'm going to do this. And then, like, does a quick cut to the guy, be like, well, you can't do that. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to do that. What are you going to do, nuke me? You can't do that. Oh, shit. And it ended. I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
It's not the good. Editing was, I think I liked some of the transitions in this movie. There's some good transitions early on in this movie. But for some reason, well, now we know the reasons that they ran out of money and whatnot. But like you said, at the third chunk of this movie, it just is a train wreck. And like even editing fails. Like I said, the shots were done terribly. The fighting was done terribly.
Yeah, they did it in a day.
And then all these other characters that we're supposed to care about act terribly. I'm like, you didn't have to show that guy again. Like, really, no one cared. But then when you did, it was just like, it felt like a bad like video game, to be honest. Where like it's just like choppy.
Yeah.
Or something you would see on like TikTok. If the way it's rushed.
Or the two side by side, the response TikToks.
Yeah, that's how it felt. Honestly, it was like a TikTok. Yo, someone do that. Someone cut that clip and put it on TikTok and just be like, "Wow, funny!" And just do a bunch of like funny emojis.
Ooh, that might be fun.
That'll be a test. We just make a TikTok account and it's just that.
Vin Diesel fan cam TikTok account about all of his films. We cut back to Turok and Darkwandier, and it seems like Aurora's babies are guiding her. Ugh. The No-Lights have found the place, so Turok escapes and heads to his destination with Darkwandier's crew. The High Priestess comes to interrogate Darkwandier, who says nothing, and she kills him. And that's the last time we see her.
Who cares?
There clearly was supposed to be some sort of climactic fight with her that Vin kills her or something.
Or
something.
They wanted a sequel.
Or something. But nope, that's just it. That's the curtain calls for her. Whatever. Turok and Darkwandier's men have arrived at Turok's family home, and he finds Aurora and they go.
All right, I'm also going to be this is a nitpick. And I might be wrong, though. Might be wrong, but based off my Appalachian experience. All right, I taught forestry merit badge in Massweepy Scout camps located in the Adirondacks. And these trees, of wherever this was shot, was no Adirondack trees. Those are way too thin. It looked way too dry. I'm going to guess this was actually filmed in California or Vancouver, or any of those...
Or France.
Or France. Those trees were not the Appalachian trees. Appalachian trees are much bigger boys. Those were not big boys. It looked really dry. There's not many like foliage on the ground.
You know how old
no
trees
ferns,
live?
No nothing.
You know how old a tree can get?
How old?
So now when climate change... I'm not asking you. I'm not having you guess. You know. Climate change happens in this fictional world, and the year is now 258. Maybe all those trees dried up. Shut the fuck up. This movie is awesome. Who gives a shit?
No, I just remember that. I was just like, that ain't no upstate New York. Don't you try to fool me.
Anyway, in any case, she went there for no reason. Also, by the way, in that flashlight back, she like just telepathically stopped the explosion and then
whole
teleported.
Time. She was complaining about not killing people or about people dying. If you could stop a missile, you could have stopped all those bullets from all those people. You could have crushed their skulls with your brain. You could have lifted that submarine and thrown it somewhere else.
The only reason why she went here is that to reconfirm that he still has a family home there, so that they could have him live there at the end.
Bruh, no. And then when we get to the ending, I'm like, I want a whole movie of how he got from that to that, an HDTV level.
I got like 3 sentences left. Let me talk. Now they are being pursued by No-Lights, and Vin Diesel does an epic stunt to blow the 2 vehicles up. End of all the fighting. That was the climax, boys and girls. 2 vans of people we don't even see. We don't even see the people driving them. They are unmarked vans. He blows them up. The end. They are safe now. And we cut to a hospital where Aurora is in bed. She's like uber pregnant now. They share a sweet moment that doesn't last long. She tells him, "You're now the daddy," and it implies that she's dying. Now some years have passed, and the kids have been born. Seems like Aurora is dead, and the story is done now.
I mean, that house looks nice, but that's what I'm saying. I want to know how he got from that shitty house, that rumble, to that. Do a whole movie on that, and it'd probably be better than this.
How can you afford it? What hospital did they go to? The good guys are dead. The bad guys are still alive.
The Appalachian Hospital.
Like, they didn't actually stop the bad
guys.
guys.
Was this months after, or was this like... Because it made it feel like it was the next day. Like, she fast grew him.
Considering how fast she got pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, okay, kids, it's time to go back. Okay, Daddy. Let's slowly walk. Oh my God. Walking basically into a green screen. That's probably why they didn't walk very far. It was like it just doesn't make any sense. That woman, the high priestess, still alive. The entire high table people still alive. GLaDOS still alive. You know what I mean? Like, they know where he lives. What? I don't get it. I don't get it.
This was like, shit, we have to actually end this movie. And have some closure.
But honest to God, better closure would just be like, just the scene of them driving away and just you hear a voiceover being like, "And we made it. We made it." And that's it. That's better closure than this.
It actually is.
You know what I mean? Because you could just pretend that cool stuff was going to happen.
Honestly,
instead
now
of
that I
showing
think about
us.
it, this movie went downhill after that shower scene. Like, that's where it really tailed off.
Yeah.
And that's what you get.
That's where the third act begins.
That's what you get.
That's what you get for pedophilia.
Freaking weirdos. Actually, I don't want what's his name on anymore. I changed my mind. So if you're listening to this...
he's on our shit list because he called Vin Diesel an idiot. Yeah, so he's on our shit list.
Yeah, guess what? You can't come on the show now. I changed my mind.
You're uninvited.
You're uninvited.
To my show. Where I make money off of your content. Off of your conversation.
But, yeah, this movie really tail bombed. Like, it started off as like, okay, this is a cool setting. This is cool. This is interesting world.
I liked a journey movie. I like a post-apocalyptic journey movie.
Mad Max.
As much as I like to talk shit about The Last of Us being overrated, I still actually think it's a great and amazing first game, and a second game is awesome too. I like the road trip stuff. I like the journey.
Dude, I want to go on a road trip.
I like journeys through danger. It's a classic
Sonic. That's why we like Sonic. Journey Through Danger. Road trip.
That's all of his games are. He's always running in the same direction.
I meant the movie, but
Journey Through Danger. And the movie too, sure. Journey Through Danger. I like it, but then it turns into just, we need to be epic. We need to be Metal Gear. Like, okay, so
pretentious
here's my...
is the term, I think.
Pretentious, well...
And it's not even that.
Confuddled. Here's my thing. This is why I said it was like Metal Gear, because the worst aspects of Metal Gear stories are kind of like this, where it's like, all right, Dad is famous for making AI babies, kicked out. He's discredited. He had lost his doctor code.
His doctor?
Whatever it is.
He lost his doctor. He lost his black belt.
he lost his
but not his
honor.
skill.
The only thing they gave him was his the knife you used to commit suicide.
Here's a scalpel, sir.
He is brilliant, but disenfranchised from any form of official works. And here comes the No-Lights, the High Priestess. They want to hire him to make a baby for them. Okay, cool.
Yo, can you make baby?
Sweet. He grows a conscience somehow. But not the conscience of like, this is fucked up. He still wants to make the master race. But he's like, oh, I love this child now. This is my child.
My creation.
He now puts... But so the high priestess comes to take the baby. And he's like, nah, you can't have her. Okay. Then he gives her to the convent, which is owned by the Nolites. Well, this is such a workaround. Why did you do this? You just wanted to give her to her anyway. It's confusing for the sake of being confusing. For to sound like it's unique and there's layers and there's complexity to it. But if you boil it down, it's like man says no, but says yes anyway. But in a way where he can still be like no, but then they do it anyway. And he has to fight to get her back. Even though we were told he never gave her up. Do you follow? Or are you as confused as I am?
Too many like holes to go through when it doesn't need to be. Like it already, I think the concept on face value could be really cool, but they made it overly complicated and tried to explain everything at the very end, but yet didn't like show any connection dots or any connecting dots from previously in the film. This movie started off as a, like you said, a post-apocalypse adventure film where it felt grounded for the most part. That they're like, okay, like there's things you just can't do, or like there's survival of the fittest out here. And then it turns into like this sci-fi or wannabe sci-fi, honestly,
End
cyberpunk world thing.
Mystic secret organizations are plotting
anti-religion film, like.
Yeah, in some senses, yeah.
Like if they wanted to do all that, they should have made Vin Diesel's character like way more like anti-religion from the get-go. Like he literally prays in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention
that. Like that kind of
yes.
contradicts like his like there is no God. Didn't he say something like that, or something to that extent?
What it's we want to seem like we have something to say without actually having the balls or the word to do it. Also, when that missile explodes in front of him, that should have melted his face. The flames from that should have killed him. I digress. At the end of every single episode of the Chronicles of Diesel, we rank each way we do these movies. We rank them based off how they are as movies. This is low. I'm telling you right now, this is low. And we rank Vin Diesel's performance in the movie separately. So we've discussed our thoughts on this movie.
I have one more thought, actually. And which kind of ties back into having something to say without actually saying anything. And you mentioned Assassin's Creed earlier. The first suggested movie that I saw on my Amazon queue was Assassin's Creed. I'm like, that makes total fucking sense. They're like, whoever watches this will love Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Politics, but not. Anti-religion or religion or not.
But not.
Yeah.
Pretending we have a question because we don't. Yeah. We watched Assassin's Creed.
Audience.
We watched Assassin's Creed for our main podcast, the Sonic Movie Show, because we like to watch video game movies and review them. We don't rank those. So we talked about how bad that movie is and how it wants to have something to say, and it hired Michael Fassbender to try to answer him. But in any case, for our movie ranking list for this podcast series, The Chronicles of Diesel, we have, and I want to specify, this is potentially unrelated to Vin Diesel's contribution in the film. This is the film as a whole.
For example,
ranking.
Saving Private Ryan's number one. He's only in it for 25, 30 minutes, but we really love that movie.
Most. Right. Number one on our list is Saving Private Ryan. 2, Triple X. 3, The Fast and the Furious. Then we have The Iron Giant. Awakenings at number 5. A Man Apart. Find Me Guilty. Boiler Room. The Chronicles of Riddick. Number 10 is Pitch Black. 11, Knockaround Guys. The Pacifier. The Chronicles of Riddick. Escape from Butcher Bay on Xbox. 14, Multifacial. 15, The Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury, that side animated thing. And 16, Strays. Now, I'm just going off of my gut here because part of, to me, there are, when I think a movie is good or bad, this is just Ethan speaking here, I have two facets of that. The artistic sense and the fun sense. And a good movie has both or just a whole lot of one, right? I can think Fate of the Furious is an awesome movie. It's not artistic. I could think Saving Private Ryan is very artistic. It's not a fun movie. They're both really good, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we haven't seen The Fate of the Furious yet. That's in a year. But regardless, for me, there's those two aspects when I'm looking at a movie, or at least how I think about if I liked the movie or not. If it's fun, or if it's fucking good.
And in the past, for tiebreakers, we've always used, would we watch this again? Or are we having this time when we're cleaning? Are we having this time when the homies are over? That's usually our tiebreaker.
I will say this. I had more fun watching Pitch Black or Knockaround Guys or The Pacifier than watching this. I did really like the first act, I guess, but my enjoyment of that was assuming it was going more. You know what I mean? If I were to rewatch the movie now that I know how it ended, I would probably not like it nearly as much, because you were on the journey in that first act. Knowing the destination reduces that first act, in my opinion, to me.
And the lack of destination.
So personally, I would put this at number 13 above Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, the Xbox game, and below The Pacifier, which might be sacrilegious to some people that really decided that movie was terrible. It was a fun, dumb, bad, but fun
Disney
movie. It was an of the era before Bob Iger Disney movie.
Yes.
100%. What do you think?
What's funny is when I was looking at this, that's right where I wanted to put it. I think it's been a minute since we've been both spot on. I know we've been maybe one or two off from one another, but I think this is the first time in a while that we've been spot on. I would rather watch this than play the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, because that was painful after 2 hours, and this movie was painful after an hour and a half. So both for percentage wise, Babylon AD is much worse in its time that it's given to me
than all the movies above it. Yeah. Okay, then I think that works. So then essentially, Saving Private Ryan, Triple X, The Fast and the Furious, The Iron Giant, 5 was Awakenings, A Man Apart, Find Me Guilty, Boiler Room, The Chronicles of Riddick, 10 is Pitch Black, Knockaround Guys, The Pacifier, 13 is now the new home of Babylon AD, The Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, 15 is Multifacial, 16 Dark Fury, 17 Strays. Okay, cool. How did you think Vin Diesel did in this movie? What did you like about his performance?
Majority of the scenes,
I liked it.
I would say majority of the scenes are good. There's a couple scenes I wish he could have redone, maybe the way it was executed, but it also could have been part of it could have been everyone else's execution as well. Like I said, that one scene with the Catholic lady versus dude in limo, and this how quickly rushed that was. There was elements of that during that I've seen in a couple of the scenes with Vin later on in the film, but once again, I think that's because of the film and not because of Vin. There's a couple of times where I feel like he brought more energy to a scene though than the people, but I don't think that's, once again, I don't think it's a negative. That's other people's fault for not being right there with him, because we've seen that before where he brings 100 and someone brings 70, and it makes the whole scene awkward. And maybe at first you're like, oh, it's Vin. No, I really think it's the other actors. I think a lot of people point to the lead to be like that. It sucked because of that. It's no, if no one else is carrying their weight, the lead can only do so much.
Right. Right. If he does his job.
I don't think he's amazing though in this either. I don't think he's done anything groundbreaking we've seen. I know in the past we've kind of, for our Vin rankings, we decide, or helps us decide too, is whether or not was he advertised as a lead. He was. In some of his other works, he wasn't the lead and he stole the show. So that kind of sometimes goes up in the rankings for us. But for this one, I feel like it's all right. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad. It's just all right. It didn't blow me away.
For me, I might be a little bit higher than you on the enjoyment level of his performance, but I'm mostly attributing that to the first act and a half, where I feel like he did a pretty good job being that type of character. Like I said, I liked the fact that he was starting off as an anti-hero, but he had a bit of a conscience to him, and he didn't seem like he was a dumbass. He knew, just go with it. This is the job you're being paid for. There's a little bit of honor to it. Don't trust anyone, but you don't have to fuck over the people you're being paid to deliver. However, when it comes down to that third act especially, and a couple of scenes before that, including the shower scene, I felt like it was just kind of back to, we can't direct Vin Diesel very well all of a sudden. We just don't know how to direct this man. Now, we know that the movie was troubled. Production on it was terrible. Vin Diesel even joked, am I even in this movie anymore? You know what I mean? So there was clearly lots of Vin Diesel scenes that got cut. I don't think he was very good in the last third act. And that last scene was terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about his performance in that, too. It was bad. Okay, kids, let's go.
It was just very like...
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Because in a scene so out of context, I need him, the lead, to give me the context in how he says things. And instead, it's just, okay, he's just happy now. Goodbye. And I'm waving my hand.
Like he could have, yeah,
wave
he
my
could have
hand, but
been.
I'm waving my hand.
Once again, this also could be the writing too, but he also could have been. He could have said something like, "Oh, your mother would be proud." Something.
Anything. Anything. In any case, our rankings for Vin Diesel's performance for the Chronicles of Diesel is as follows. Number 1, Triple X. Number 2, The Fast and the Furious. 3, Find Me Guilty. 4, A Man Apart. 5, The Pacifier. Then we have The Chronicles of Riddick, Boiler Room, Multifacial, Pitch Black. Number 10, Knockaround Guys. Strays, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. The Iron Giant, Saving Private Ryan. 15 being The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. And 16, Awakenings. So, like I said, I think I will say he's better than his earlier works, even at his low points in this movie.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's better than what he was in Saving Private Ryan. Better than that. Better than he was in Pitch Black, I think. I don't think he was better than what he was in Fast and Furious and Triple X by any stretch of the imagination. For me, it kind of hovers around The Chronicles of Riddick and Boiler Room, numbers 6 and 7. They are both underneath The Pacifier and A Man Apart, and they are both above Pitch Black and Multifacial, the short film that he did as his first real acting job, was one he financed himself and directed himself. Do you agree with that narrowing down of better than Multifacial, but not as good as The Pacifier?
I had it a hair lower. Like initially, I'm putting it at like 10 or 11.
Interesting.
But
because that inherently puts it below Pitch Black.
That later half of the film just really, really fucked me. Like it really just got me hyped, and then it's like it felt like a roller coaster going up and up, and then it just stayed up there. But not like
just kept going.
You're like,
up.
when am I coming down? I'm done. Like, and then like it just dropped randomly, and that was the last scene.
Yeah, he blows
and
up.
But it wasn't even fun. You're like, why? Don't do that shit. Like, why'd you do that?
Watch Assassin's Creed next.
I can see what you mean though with like. Multifacial, Pitch
really
Black, and Knockaround Guys. I think
it's better than I liked it a lot more than Pitch Black. His performance is much better than Pitch Black.
It just really like the whole movie as a whole is bringing me down. So like I think I'm fine putting it like higher than at least Pitch Black. I think Multifacial and Boiler Room I'm a little iffy on, but to be fair, he wasn't a lead in those except for Multifacial.
He was the movie for Multifacial.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
so
I think he did better in this movie than Multifacial, though, as a whole.
Now, granted,
so I guess,
audience out there,
I don't know.
Audience out there, if you want to know more about our entire thoughts about these other movies, listen to the other episodes. We go more in depth. But I want to bring back to Multifacial, and let's quickly rediscuss that short film from over a year ago. He financed it, he directed it, he produced it. He obviously wasn't the one behind the camera, but it was his directing work. So he basically, that in a sense is kind of tied to him. He was obviously the lead in this short film. And it was about trying to be an actor. He's not enough of one thing, but not nearly enough of the opposite to be either.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of that movie. And again, he wrote that, etc. His acting in that really did portray the amateurishness of the type of person he was IRL and being portrayed in that movie of someone trying to get acting gigs. This was before he got acting gigs. This is him trying to be an actor, right? I think that there's heart to that. I don't think it's obviously executed well, but it's up at the point where it is because of that heart that he put into it. Now, I talk up multifacial enough that I think obviously the result would be put it below multifacial.
But I think
however,
it's higher
I still think
like I'm going up one by one because, like I said, my low ball is at 11, and I'm slowly going up. I'm like, yeah, I probably like his performance more in Strays. I don't really remember Strays as much anymore. Knockaround Guys, I think he had good moments, but he didn't have that many scenes really that like stood out, or he didn't have many scenes in general. Pitch Black was Pitch Black as a film. He wound up being the main guy. I mean, it wound up Pitch Black. That he kind of stole the show in the end, but he also wasn't that amazing in it because everyone else kind of sucked and the plot was boring up until the monsters. That's like the movie itself. And Multifacial, like you said, he put his heart and soul in it, and that's awesome. It's probably was a lot of work,
but
is it better? Was he a better actor in that?
No, he wasn't. That's the thing, is he wasn't. Multifacial is an instance where you really have to take it of it as the movie kind of is Vin Diesel in the sense, because he really did put everything into it. But at the end of the day, he wasn't great in that either. You know what I mean? And nor would I expect that from his first big thing. You know what I mean? I think his performance here is, at the very least, better than Multifacial. Boiler Room, I can see an argument for, but honest to God, I still think it's kind of better than Boiler Room because he had that monologue that we mention every now and then, where he holds up the phone after he did a close. But other than that, the only real scene I can remember is him at the end being like, "Oh man, we were the bad guys the whole time, and now the feds are coming to arrest me." Man. Other than that, I don't think he was really great.
Yeah, this is that monologue at the time when we did it. Was really like, oh shit, it's all
relative.
Was a flash of the Vin we know and for being a
B-list,
A-list star at that point. Right. You know what I mean?
So I think this list, while I stand by our list 100% as it already is, I do think that we did at one point fall into the trap of just, the monologue. I still stand by the list, and we're
like
not
I said,
changing.
At the time it was significant
anything.
Compared to, because that was like his one moment in the movie that was like, oh shit, Vin.
But do we think that's better than his entire performance in this movie?
That's what I'm thinking of.
No.
So I think it's okay. We're going up now. Now we're at 7.
Chronicles of Riddick. Now this is where I'm really like, I don't really think so. Even though I don't actually like the character of Riddick all that much, I still think he was a better. You hate me, but at the same time, you're just so fascinated with me, and when you want to know what I'm going to do next, and you're rooting for me. I think he does that pretty well in that movie. I don't like the character of Riddick, but I like the character of Riddick. I just don't like him, but I like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just shows a better range of
wasn't
emotions
he
in some
producer
parts. No, I don't think so.
Oh, hold on, look at. No. Okay.
No. Do we want to end this right before the Chronicles of Riddick?
I think that's where we need to go.
AD.
If the movie over, I think it doesn't help that the movie sucks. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it shouldn't damper it, but it kind of does at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah. All right, so there we have it. Our new list is as follows: Triple X at number 1, The Fast and the Furious, Find Me Guilty, A Man Apart, number 5, The Pacifier, The Chronicles of Riddick, our new home of number 7, Babylon AD, Boiler Room, Multifacial, 10 is Pitch Black, Knockaround Guys, Strays, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury, The Iron Giant, Saving Private Ryan is 15, The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, and Awakenings ends us at 17. Can you imagine, Devin, going back in time at one point or another, Pitch Black was like number 2.
Was it?
Look at all the movies above it. The only one that was there before it was Multifacial.
Oh my God, you're right.
Wow.
Damn.
And then we just immediately was like, yeah, no, it's better than that.
Yeah.
Immediately.
That's crazy.
Wow. We've been on a wild ride for this podcast. It's been, like I said, a little over a year, and we've learned so much over the course of this. I feel like we've grown as Vin Diesel connoisseurs and critics.
I've been saying to people, I feel like Vin's all about family, right? I think we're in the family now, like whether he likes it or not, or knows we exist. We're in the family. We're in the family because we've watched him grown up. Like actually, I feel like right now is when we're getting into not the peak of his career, but like he solidified himself at this point. We know what to expect from him.
Now it's banger after banger after banger in terms of box office success.
Yeah.
Especially
except for this movie here, but
but after this.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy to see. I think this year or these 13 episodes will be the biggest jump for us. I think from here on out it's not going to be like, unless there's like we love like The Last Witch Hunter or like that's super crazy. I don't think it's going to be the case, but we've been surprised before. We've been shocked before. I know going into the pacifier, we were like, this is going to be a rough go, and we wind up liking it, you know what I mean, or not hating it, when a lot of people, I think, say otherwise.
It's funny because we're at the point now where I've seen most of the stuff on the list.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that I think that, like, we saw the biggest growth from the first episode to, like, here, and I think from here on out, it's not going to be as much of an arc. I know, like, when we do the Sonic movie show, there was an arc that we didn't predict that or didn't force it, but, like, there was this arc of this movie's going to be bad. Everyone's making fun of it. Even if they redo the design, it's not going to be good. And it defied all the odds. It was a Cinderella story. Yep. And, like, I know going in, we were like, Vin Diesel's always been seen as this joke actor, I think, or people, like, make fun of him or whatnot for being not that good of an actor, but he's in Fast and Furious, so whatever. And I just don't see that as the case, really, in this 1 year alone. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if if our minds are going to change in a year. I think I think the next couple years are just going to solidify that for us. So I'm not saying the journey is over necessarily, but I feel like we're already seeing the character arc, but the story arc of this, what this show is that Vin, I think people underestimate him or what he can do. I'm excited because we said in the beginning of the show that in the past we've mentioned this as well, is that he wants to get into directing and whatnot. I think that's a whole other avenue that I'm excited about. That's where I can see him growing, because he hasn't really directed any movies besides his ones when he was trying to get into Hollywood,
Right, exactly. But I believe he did direct one of the things we're watching for next episode. Next episode, June 1st, be prepared to have watched Fast and Furious, the fourth Fast and Furious film, as well as its prequel short story, which I believe Vin Diesel directed, called Los Bandoleros, which is pretty much on every single DVD of Fast and Furious.
So should we watch that first before Fast and Furious?
Oh yeah, it's a prequel. And
I don't know if it's one of those prequels that are like, don't watch it till
we'll look
after,
it up.
You know what I mean? Like,
we'll look it up. I'm pretty sure it released before the movie.
Like, I wouldn't recommend someone to watch Rogue One before watching Episode 4 of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, technically a prequel, but I wouldn't recommend it that way.
The time difference is months versus years.
Yeah.
Decades. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, watch those two things. Essentially one movie and its short film marketing thing, which kind of, if I remember, resets up why they are in whatever country they're in, doing whatever they're doing, to actually then segue into the movie proper.
God damn, I can't wait to go back.
But considering that Fast and Furious is only 107 minutes, you could have just put Los Bandoleros in the film anyway.
Well, unless it's trash.
That could be. So I've watched that for June 1st of 2021. Next month, we're going to see you then for another episode of The Chronicles of Diesel. Let's ride.
And drive.
I want to have a cool outro thing that we say. You know what I mean? As an exit.
Triple X, buddy.
On Sonic Movie Show, I've been saying goodbye, and I don't have one here. I think Triple X, buddy, is going to be it. Triple X, buddy.
Or it could be we're all gonna die in New York. Good night.
Yeah. Goodbye.
What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race. Ride or die, remember?